Chapter 573. Zhou Xuanji and Shiji, 6 immortals, collected many spirit herbs and flowers in the central world of the heavenly palace. They moved quickly and found a cave entrance after a round of searching. They traveled swiftly along the tunnel and saw many side palaces. They moved separately like a swarm of locusts. It was a pity that most of the side palaces were already taken by others. A short while later, Zhou Xuanji suddenly sensed a powerful aura coming from behind. The other party was shuttling through the winding tunnel and would reach him soon. He took out the History Asunder sword straightaway and merged it with demon god Tianwu with the 9-soul fusion technique. The connecting heaven legendary sword's power flowed into his body through his palm. Very powerful. I feel like I can defeat all connecting heaven cultivators. He was curious. The History Asunder sword could cut through the river of history. But how? Where is the river of history? Shiji's 6 immortals also sensed a powerful pressure. They turned around and prepared for battle. Boom! The wall in front of them was smashed open, and a man in flame armor with 4 arms appeared. He was stepping on flames. He stared at Zhou Xuanji and said with a deep voice, "You killed Huang Fufei?" The horrifying heat engulfed the entire tunnel and turned the walls crimson red from the heat. Old immortal Shiji cried out in shock, "Yin Maching! Why are you here?" Yin Maching. Zhou Xuanji heard about him from Qingqingsong before. This person was neither good nor evil. He became a saint contender hundreds of years ago and slaughtered an empire. He also almost died to save a clan. His sins and kindness were incalculable. Looking at Yin Maching's attitude, he obviously knew Huang Fufei. "Yes," Zhou Xuanji replied. Yin Maching opened his eyes wide. His murderous aura soared into the sky and shook the entire tunnel. He walked toward Zhou Xuanji step by step and asked coldly, "Very good. You are so arrogant. You must be someone famous. Tell me your name." Zhou Xuanji pointed his sword at him and said, "Sword Emperor, Zhou Xuanji." Boom! Yin Maching dashed up to Zhou Xuanji with a big stride. He raised his arms high and a blade of light materialized between his palms. He slashed down with the blade as though he was going to split Mount Hua. In an instant, Yin Maching backed off quickly and put some distance between him and Zhou Xuanji. The flames on the cave walls continued to burn as if they would never be extinguished. The Shiji's 6 immortals were so scared that they didn't even dare to breathe. "Where are you from?" "You shouldn't be from the Heaven Fiend domain," Yin Maching said with a frown. At that moment, he felt a fatal sense of danger and instinctively jumped away. Zhou Xuanji smiled and asked, "Is it that important?" He raised his sword and walked towards Yin Maching. Since he was here, he would not leave. "Very good. You are very strong. How about we work together?" Yin Maching changed the topic, but Zhou Xuanji did not stop. He continued, "At the lowest level of the heavenly palace, there is a corpse of a demon god. It is guarding the phoenix heart ginseng. Let's work together and split the phoenix heart ginseng." He spoke calmly, not fearing that Zhou Xuanji would not be moved. As expected, Zhou Xuanji stopped. What moved him was not the phoenix heart ginseng, but the demon god's body. He asked, "What's the use of phoenix heart ginseng?" He must obtain the demon god's body. If he could gather all 9 demon gods' bodies, his power would grow tremendously. Yin Maching replied, "It can bring the dead back to life and gather souls for rebirth. It can also be used as an ingredient to make medicinal pills for cultivation." Zhou Xuanji nodded and asked him to lead the way. The phoenix heart ginseng sounded good. He could go and get it. Shiji's 6 immortals followed him immediately. Yin Maching glanced at them and said, "You are not worthy." Shiji's 6 immortals were furious and embarrassed. Zhou Xuanji took out the ancient god's sword with his left hand and said, "They are my people. This is enough." Facing Yin Maching, he did not want to be tactful. He must be forceful when necessary. Shiji's 6 immortals heard him and were extremely grateful. Yin Maching smiled coldly but did not speak further. Under his lead, the group left quickly. Yin Maching was very domineering. He destroyed the tunnel and charged underground forcefully. He was not afraid of being attacked by traps or traps. They descended quickly. Half an hour later, they landed on a gigantic golden shell. Below them was the forbidden ground of the heavenly palace. Yin Maching took out a white jade bottle and waved it lightly. Green liquid poured out and corroded the golden shell. Shiji's 6 immortals felt a chill in their hearts. This guy was good at using poison too. I must be careful. Soon, a hole was burned in the golden shell. Yin Maching leaped in first, followed by Zhou Xuanji and the rest. This was a space that was thousands of meters in diameter. Flowers were fragrant, and birds were chirping. There was a row of trees at the edge that was filled with spiritual qi. There was also a river flowing through the grassland. Zhou Xuanji's eyes quickly locked onto the demon god's body. The demon god sat on the grassland. Its skin was charred black, and it wore black armor. Its hair was loose, and its face looked like a skull. It had 3 tails on its back, and its nails were long and sharp like swords. It sat there like a ghost. Zhou Xuanji sighed in amazement. The dignified 10 great fiend gods now all ended up in an appearance that was neither human nor ghost. Truly pitiful. *T. This is how it looks. Sovereign Xian snorted coldly. He knew how to spoil the mood. Yin Maching pointed at the forest and said, "The phoenix heart ginseng is in there. We have to subdue it first. Or else, once it explodes, it will be hard for us to defend." Zhou Xuanji asked, "You know this demon god very well?" Yin Maching nodded and said, "This is demon god Jihuang. His speed is the fastest below the heavenly saints. If we are not careful, we will be killed instantly." Shiji's 6 immortals were on tenterhooks as they listened. They stared at demon god Jihuang, fearing that he would suddenly attack. Yin Maching took out a snakeskin pipa. As he strummed the strings, he said, "Let's work together. I will reduce his speed, and you will be responsible for..." Before they could finish their words, demon god Jihuang appeared before them suddenly and punched Zhou Xuanji and Yin Maching's chests simultaneously. The impact sent the two flying and slammed into the golden summit. Shiji's 6 immortals immediately retreated in fear. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji charged over with his sword. 10,000 ultimate steps was followed by dozens of legendary swords. Seeing that his swords were about to hit demon god Jihuang, the demon god tilted his body and dodged with extreme speed. Zhou Xuanji immediately activated Sword Dao rules. Boom! Demon god Jihuang's body spun and flew backward. He landed quickly and stabilized his body. His body was covered with sword wounds, but no blood flowed out. He was like a dried corpse. His wounds recovered quickly, and he disappeared on the spot again. Such self-healing ability, Zhou Xuanji frowned and immediately merged demon god Nanming into his body. With the power of 2 demon gods and the history asunder sword, Zhou Xuanji suddenly saw demon god Jihuang. The demon god flew above his head and smashed his leg down. It would be excruciating if he was hit by this kick. Zhou Xuanji activated Sword Dao rules again. Wherever he looked, the legendary swords charged toward him. Chapter 574. Boom! Demon god Jihuang was struck by the Sword Dao rules again and was turned into a porcupine by the legendary swords. Yin Maching's expression changed drastically in the sky. Such a fast sword. He did not see it clearly at all. If this move was used against him, just the thought of it made his scalp numb. It was too horrifying. Demon god Jihuang did not completely lose the ability to fight. Instead, he let out a horrifying roar. He shook his arms and sent all the legendary swords flying away. He opened his mouth and inhaled to gather spiritual qi. A horrifying aura exploded from his body. Zhou Xuanji's eyes sharpened. With the history asunder sword in his right hand, he slashed with the sword soul. Sword qi swept horizontally. It passed through demon god Jihuang's body directly. A streak of white radiance was brought out by the sword Qi, which exploded instantly. Demon god Ji Huang's body was not penetrated. His arms drooped and he fell down. Zhou Xuanji immediately caught him and stored him in the Tianxia map. I see. Severing the river of history meant severing the past. No matter how demon god Ji Huang was controlled, after being slashed by the history asunder sword, everything in his past dissipated, leaving only a corpse. Too domineering. This history asunder sword was definitely a domineering existence as well. Yin Maching landed before him and asked with a complicated expression, "What sword technique did you use just now?" After living for so long, it was his first time seeing such a fast sword. Yin Maching's impression of Zhou Xuanji rose quickly. Zhou Xuanji said, "This guy was killed by me. The Phoenix Heart Ginseng, I'll take 90%, and you take 10%. I'll give you 10% of the traveling expenses. That's already good enough. Or else, we could have found this place ourselves." Having heard this, Yin Maching was not enraged but nodded without hesitation. Zhou Xuanji smiled and flew toward the forest. Shiji's 6 immortals followed quickly. Yin Maching was the last one. He was not worried that Zhou Xuanji would get here before him. He understood the situation. He could only listen to Zhou Xuanji's instructions, or else he might die here. Huang Fufei, what kind of being did you offend? He thought to himself hatefully. He knew what Huang Fufei was doing recently. He waited in the Guanghuang's secret realm on purpose. Countless cultivators died in his hands. Previously, he and Huang Fufei worked together to explore this place and were both severely injured by demon god Ji Huang. This was also why Huang Fufei could smell the demon god's aura. Soon, Zhou Xuanji saw the Phoenix Heart Ginseng. These Phoenix Heart Ginsengs were fiery red, and their roots were connected to each other, resembling a pair of phoenix wings. He swept his gaze across the area and discovered that there were close to 100 Phoenix Heart Ginsengs gathered together. He quickly took away 83 Phoenix Heart Ginsengs and left the rest for Yin Maching. As for the Shiji 6 immortals, they naturally didn't have a share and couldn't be of any help. It was already good enough for them to broaden their horizons. Although the Shiji 6 immortals were envious, they didn't say anything. A tinge of surprise flashed in Yin Maching's eyes. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to really leave some treasures for him. If it were him, he might have killed Zhou Xuanji straight away. He was open-minded and could be considered a hero. His impression of Zhou Xuanji changed. His hands were not slow either, and he quickly stored the Phoenix Heart Ginseng. He looked at Zhou Xuanji and asked, "What are you looking for? Tell me, I might be able to help." Old immortal Shiji coldly snorted, "We also know that we don't need you." The other 5 immortals followed suit, opposing Yin Maching. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "Let's part ways here, lest I want to kill you." Yin Maching was a little stunned. He shook his head with a smile and left quickly. Old immortal Shiji asked curiously, "Sir, why didn't you kill him? Aren't you afraid of endless trouble?" Zhou Xuanji shrugged and said, "I don't have any direct enmity with him. Putting myself in his shoes, there's no need to increase the sin of killing. Moreover, he can't possibly kill me." The Shiji 6 immortals were impressed. Such magnanimity and confidence were admirable. After that, they wandered around the vicinity and did not find any other treasures, so they decided to leave. An hour later, they left the heavenly palace and came to the land. Zhou Xuanji did not act immediately but found a place to refine demon god Ji Huang into a clone. With the soul division technique, he succeeded in less than 2 days. So far, he had used the bodies of 4 demon gods. The demon ancestor, demon god Tianwu, demon god Ji Huang, and demon god Nanming. He was in a good mood and continued his journey with the Shiji 6 immortals. The Shiji 6 immortals were smart. Since the beginning, they did not ask him about the technique to refine a clone. Zhou Xuanji found them pleasing to the eye. "Do you have a hometown, family, or sect?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He did not hear old immortal Shiji mention his sect or his family, which gave him some ideas. Old immortal Shiji shook his head and immediately understood Zhou Xuanji's intention. He chuckled and said, "If Senior is willing to take us in, it will be the best. We don't want to wander around forever." The other 5 immortals nodded in excitement. Zhou Xuanji was powerful and had an adventurous spirit. Following such a person would make their future life exciting. Seeing their anticipation, Zhou Xuanji nodded and began to tell his story. He started from when he was 2 years old. As for the supreme legendary sword system, it was a secret that only he knew. The Shiji 6 immortals were tongue-tied. They were all in disbelief. Zhou Xuanji was only 300 years old? Wasn't such a short life too exciting? From the mortal realm to the great thousand world, and then to the heaven fiend realm. He even had connections with the heavenly saints. The opportunities and talents he had were too exaggerated. It was as though he was making it up. Shiji 5th sighed in amazement, "Senior, your courage is your true talent." Every time Zhou Xuanji encountered an undefeatable enemy, he was never afraid. This was enough to make her admire him. The other 5 followed suit and flattered him. They really admired Zhou Xuanji in their hearts. They believed that Zhou Xuanji might become a heavenly saint in the future. They must hold on tightly to him. After Zhou Xuanji revealed his background, the Shiji 6 immortals became even more lively. They began to talk about their past. By the river, Yin Maching sat cross-legged and played with a phoenix heart ginseng in his hand. In his heart, he was thinking about Zhou Xuanji. Who is he? He even took away the corpses of demon gods. Could he be collecting ancient demon gods? He thought about it a lot. As for Huang Fufei, he had already forgotten about it. He did not dare to offend such a powerful being. A silhouette landed beside him suddenly. This person wore a white robe with golden patterns. He had an imposing appearance, and his face was handsome and dignified. His white hair was coiled up in a crown, and the eyes under his sword-like brows were deep and profound. Seeing him, Yin Maching immediately got up and half knelt on the ground. "Emperor, why are you here?" he said respectfully. Having heard him, the emperor said, "Yin Maching, give me the phoenix heart ginseng quickly." Yin Maching quickly took out 6 phoenix heart ginseng and handed it to the emperor. The emperor took the ginseng and asked, "What are you thinking about?" Yin Maching did not hide anything and told the emperor about Zhou Xuanji. After he finished, the emperor squinted his eyes and mumbled, "Collecting demon gods? Seems like he wants to leave. Interesting. Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji. I will remember this name." Chapter 575. After obtaining demon god Jihuang, Zhou Xuanji decided to go to the other heavenly palaces. What if the other heavenly palaces also had the corpses of fiend gods? Unfortunately, they did not find any other fiend celestials in the subsequent operation. On the other hand, he had obtained quite a lot of other treasures. In the blink of an eye. There were only 20 days left until the Guanghuang secret realm closed. Zhou Xuanji and the others slowly headed towards the outside world. Although there were many independent worlds within the Guanghuang secret realm, their distribution was very simple. The deeper they went, the more dangerous it would be, but the more they went, the more they would find the exit. The Shiji 6 immortals had already been subdued by Zhou Xuanji. They planned to follow Zhou Xuanji after leaving this place. 6 connecting heaven realm experts would be able to dominate even in the Wanshan Great Thousand. The heaven fiend realm's overall strength was more powerful than the Wanshan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji was also wondering if he should recruit more powerful cultivators. He thought about it and decided to leave it to fate. One day, they arrived at a desert. West Pole's 6th grumbled, "Boss, how are you leading the way? How can there be treasures here?" The others nodded in agreement. Zhou Xuanji was not dissatisfied. His gains had already far exceeded his initial expectations. He had no objections to leaving now. The Shiji 6 immortals were also very satisfied. Following Zhou Xuanji, they had picked up a lot of good stuff, so this trip was not a loss. Now, they took it as a stroll, leisurely, extremely satisfied. It was just that the scenery was a little unsatisfactory. Whoosh, suddenly, a figure flashed past in front of him at an extremely fast speed. Old immortal Shiji quickly rushed over and grabbed that person. "Let me go. Let me go." A tender and familiar voice came, and Zhou Xuanji smiled. "Isn't this the 7-year-old boy I met at the street stall?" At the time, this kid was still selling the heaven-earth stones of the Guanghuang's secret realm. When the boy saw Zhou Xuanji, his face turned pale, and his lips began to tremble. He said in a trembling voice, "What do you want?" "Let me go. I don't have any ill intentions." Old immortal Shiji directly pulled down his pants. Shiji's second brother came over and slapped his butt. The boy was so humiliated that his face turned red. He wished he could find a hole to hide in. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Why are you running so fast? Are you hiding from something?" When the boy heard this, he immediately came back to his senses and cried out in fear, "That thing is coming, it's the evil life, evil spirit. Run! Evil life, evil spirit." Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and looked in the direction he was pointing, but he did not see the evil life, evil spirit. The Shiji 6 immortals also looked around, but they couldn't find evil life, evil wraith. Zhou Xuanji summoned demon god Tianwu and demon god Jihuang and spread out his divine sense to search for the evil life, evil spirit. Judging from the boy's expression, he didn't seem to be lying. After a while, the sandstorm in the desert suddenly became violent, as if a sandstorm was coming. An evil aura spread out, and everyone could feel the gloomy atmosphere. There was a killing intent locked onto them. "He's here. Here it comes. Run!" The boy cried out in horror, looking as if he was scared out of his wits. Zhou Xuanji sensed danger too. To be able to make him feel danger, it was clear how terrifying this evil life, evil spirit was. He immediately used the primordial chaos sword shadow. Billions of sword shadows floated in the sky, all of them pointing downwards, covering the sky and the sun. The boy looked up, and his jaw dropped. He was filled with regret. He should not have offended Zhou Xuanji back in the city. This level of swordsmanship was truly terrifying. Boom! Billions of sword shadows landed suddenly and bombarded the desert. Zhou Xuanji and the others were at the center of the explosion and were not affected. Shiji's 6 immortals looked at Zhou Xuanji with admiration. It was not their first time witnessing the primordial chaos sword shadow, but they were still shocked every time. After the primordial chaos sword shadow's power ended, the evil aura disappeared. The boy swallowed his saliva and asked, "You killed the evil life, evil spirit?" The primordial chaos sword shadow's destructive power was too powerful. Together with the disappearance of the killing intent, he could not help but think so. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "He left. He really wanted to find the evil life, evil spirit. He was absorbed by the evil life, evil spirit after all. If he wanted to return, he could only rely on the evil life, evil spirit and the heavenly saint." It was a pity that the evil life, evil spirit was too fast. It disappeared in an instant. "Let's continue our journey," Zhou Xuanji said. He was very interested in the Heaven Fiend realm and wanted to spend more time there. If Emperor Sword Court and the Divine Cliff were in trouble, he could rely on the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus to support them quickly. This incident made Shiji's 6 immortals even more cautious. Zhou Xuanji asked old immortal Shiji to release the boy, but the boy wanted to follow them and said that he would reward them afterward. The boy didn't shy away from strangers and continued to introduce himself. His name was Mingshan Child. It was his first time coming to the Guanghuang's secret realm, and he was both nervous and excited. "Mingshan Child? Do you want to die from laughter?" Shiji's second burst out laughing and mocked Mingshan Child to his heart's content. Who would call himself a child? The other 5 immortals mocked him too, and Mingshan Child was so angry that he almost seethed with anger. He gritted his teeth and said, "This is the name my master gave me. Don't insult my name." Shiji's 6 immortals continued to mock him without holding back. Mingshan Child was furious, but he did not dare to attack. They continued onward. They did not encounter the evil spirit again and successfully left this realm. 7 days later, they finally came to the entrance stele of the Guanghuang's secret realm. They could leave after the barrier was opened. They were surrounded by rolling mountains and forests. The grass was green, and the spiritual qi was abundant. Shiji's 6 immortals sat on the ground and heaved a sigh of relief. This trip to the Guanghuang's secret realm was indeed thrilling. Fortunately, they met their benefactor. With Zhou Xuanji's prowess, they survived safely. Zhou Xuanji sat before a giant rock and contacted Jiang Shui, who was in the 24-rank deep Black Lotus, to understand the situation of Emperor Sword Court and the Divine Cliff. Chiyu Boy looked around with his eyes rolling. No one knew what he was thinking about. Another 3 days passed. 2 silhouettes descended from the sky and looked down at Zhou Xuanji and the others. Everyone raised their heads to look, and their expressions changed. Yin Maching. The other person was the man whom Yin Maching addressed as the Imperial Emperor. He had a stern face. The Imperial Emperor glanced at Chiyu Boy before looking at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Sword Emperor Zhou Xuanji, can we speak in private?" Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and said, "Sure." He sensed the Imperial Emperor the moment he descended. But he could not see through the Imperial Emperor at all. The Imperial Emperor gave him a feeling of a heavenly saint, with an ordinary aura. The two immediately disappeared. Shiji's 6 immortals looked at Yin Maching in fear, in case he attacked at any moment. Chiyu Boy hid behind Shiji's 6 immortals quietly to prevent Yin Maching from noticing him. Yin Maching was expressionless. He did not look at them but stood in the air. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the Imperial Emperor came to the 2 sides of the river. There was a cliff beside them, and the river flowed down into a torrential waterfall. He looked at the Imperial Emperor and asked, "Why don't you tell me your name?" The Imperial Emperor stared at Zhou Xuanji and said calmly, "Ji Huanglin." Ji Huanglin? Zhou Xuanji thought about it and was sure that he had never heard of this name before. Such a powerful existence shouldn't be a nameless person. Chapter 576. Are you here for Huangfu Fei as well? Zhou Xuanji asked. Although he could not see through Ji Huanglin, he was not afraid at all. Ji Huanglin shook his head and said, "Your fate does not come from the Heaven Fiend domain. I want to work with you. Once this is done, I will not treat you badly." Another collaboration. First it was Yin Maching, and now it was this guy. Zhou Xuanji could not help but guess the connection between the 2 events and their intentions. Ji Huanglin stared at him and continued, "The reason why I am looking for you is that you are considered the strongest among the outsiders. The place that I am going to is a place that the natives of the Heaven Emanations domain are not allowed to enter. Only you and I can do this. The others can wait outside." Zhou Xuanji calmly asked, "Since you want my help, shouldn't you show some sincerity? You don't even explain the situation to me. Do you take me for a fool?" Ji Huanglin's attitude displeased him. This fellow's attitude was high and mighty. Although his tone was not overbearing, it still sounded like he was giving orders. "The place I want to go is called the Heaven Fiend Star Island. It is the biggest forbidden land in the Heaven Fiend domain and is located in the middle of the ocean. Since ancient times, even saint contenders have never returned after entering. Only heaven saints know the secrets inside. If you dare to enter with me, I guarantee that after you come out, your cultivation level will increase by at least 3 minor realms and you will obtain countless treasures." Ji Huanglin said leisurely as if it was very tempting. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly. It was his first time hearing about the Heaven Fiend Star Island. Just from what Ji Huanglin said, he knew that it was very dangerous. He didn't have any reason or goal to go to the Heaven Fiend Star Island. He shook his head. "I'm not interested." Ji Huanglin didn't get angry and said, "You possess the heavenly law Violet Aura. If you don't become stronger quickly, the heavenly law Violet Aura will become your bane." Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and asked, "You saw that I have the heavenly law Violet Qi, why didn't you steal it? Could this person be a heavenly saint? If he was a heavenly saint, why would he need to find someone to cooperate with? I don't need the heavenly law of Violet Qi. As long as you're willing to come with me, I can agree to one of your requests, as long as it's within my power, Ji Huanglin continued. Zhou Xuanji asked with narrowed eyes, can you bring me back to Wanshan Great Thousand? Although he could rely on the 24-tier deep black lotus to support Emperor Sword Court, he could not teleport himself back. If he sent him back, what about the 24-rank deep black lotus? Leave it in the Heaven Fiend domain and wait for others to snatch it away? If the 24-rank deep black lotus fell into the hands of others, then the people hiding in the world of the lotus might be in danger. They might even harm the divine cliff through the portal. It's nothing. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji fell into deep thought. Should I go? It was too difficult to find the heavenly saint and the evil spirit. He looked up at Ji Huanglin and said, then tell me where you came from. At least let me know what to do. Ji Huanglin said meaningfully, you are asking too much. I am already very sincere and did not threaten you. I cannot tell you my identity, just like how you have many secrets that you do not want others to know. Zhou Xuanji thought for a while and said, all right, when do we depart? Ji Huanglin said, we'll depart after we leave the Guanghuang's secret realm. Zhou Xuanji nodded, and the two immediately returned to the stone stele. Shiji 6 immortals and Qiyu boy hurriedly came up to Zhou Xuanji and asked about the situation. Zhou Xuanji did not hide anything and told him about their cooperation. Heaven Fiend Star Island? The Shiji 6 immortals were dumbfounded. Clearly, they had never heard of it before. Qiyu boy cried out in shock, you don't want to live anymore? Going to the Heaven Fiend Star Island is definitely seeking death. Yin Maching glanced at him, and he shut his mouth immediately out of fear. Zhou Xuanji looked at Shiji 6 immortals and said, find an island near the Heaven Fiend Star Island and wait for me. Shiji 6 immortals nodded. It would be fine as long as Zhou Xuanji did not shake them off. Ji Huanglin landed in the forest, and Yin Maching flew in after him. Both of them waited for the Guanghuang's secret realm's exit to open. In the next few days, living beings came to this place one after another. These living beings were all injured. When they saw Zhou Xuanji and the others, they showed no fear and stopped near the stone stele. In the blink of an eye, the Guanghuang's secret realm's exit opened. Zhou Xuanji and the others stepped in first, followed by Ji Huanglin and Yin Maching. They came to a flatland. The other living beings appeared around them one after another. Most of them left quickly without a word. Follow me, Ji Huanglin said. He flipped his right hand, and a blue beam of light enveloped Zhou Xuanji and the others and disappeared into the horizon. Within the blue light, Qiyu boy cried out, hey, hey, hey. Why did you bring me along? He almost broke down. He did not want to go to the Heaven Fiend Star Island. Ji Huanglin ignored him and looked ahead. Zhou Xuanji asked, can you bring me to a city? I want to sell something. Ji Huanglin replied, after we come out from the Heaven Fiend Star Island, I will go with you. By then, you will realize that the things you obtained in the Guanghuang's secret realm are nothing. Zhou Xuanji heard him and was suddenly very interested in the Heaven Fiend Star Island. Ji Huanglin continued, the Heaven Fiend realm is actually very special. This realm can be said to be a land of treasures. No other great thousand worlds can compare to it. You will understand the specific reason in the future. His words made the others fall into deep thought. Yin Maching looked at Ji Huanglin and asked respectfully, Emperor, do you have any other instructions? Ji Huanglin glanced at him and said with a smile, you may leave. Yin Maching took a deep breath and immediately disappeared in a stream of black light. Qiyu boy saw this and wanted to charge out, but he was repelled back. Shiji 6 immortals shuddered in their hearts and grew even more fearful of Ji Huanglin. This was obviously a forceful move. Zhou Xuanji did not think too much about it. If they were to fall out, then they would fight. In the Heavenly Saint's palace. Old Ancestor Hongshe raised his brow and smiled, Yang Ling, who is this guy? He's not simple. Buddha Yang Ling chuckled, he's just a junior. How long are you going to play with me? This chess game had reached a stage where there was no solution. Don't worry, Zhou Xuanji. I will not hurt him. I will let him return in one piece, Buddha Yangling continued. Old ancestor Hongshe threw him a stare and said, it seems like this Ji Huanglin is not simple. Let's make a deal. Don't do anything to Zhou Xuanji. Even I can't see through him completely. Could it be that he has a heavenly law-grade secret treasure? TSK, you are really generous. Buddha Yangling shook his head in a smile and did not reply. Everything was understood without words. Old ancestor Hongshe got up slowly and said, I hope that the next time we meet, we can still play chess like this. After he spoke, old ancestor Hongshe turned into a stream of crimson flame and dissipated. Buddha Yangling's expression turned solemn. A tinge of viciousness flashed in his eyes as he mumbled, Ji Huanglin, you really want that thing? After some thought, he took out a pair of puppets from his sleeves. After the two puppets landed on the ground, they quickly grew taller. Their bodies were engulfed in white flames, and they quickly turned into human forms. Chapter 577. The two puppets engulfed in white flames turned into two men who looked exactly the same. They were expressionless. Stone-like armors materialized on their bodies, and their eyes glowed coldly. Buddha Yangling said softly, Flame God guards, head to the Heaven Fiend Star Island and protect that jade. Don't let anyone near it. After he spoke, the two Flame God guards disappeared from the palace. Buddha Yangling snorted coldly before closing his eyes and thinking. Ji Huanglin was extremely fast. About an hour later, they landed suddenly. This was an uninhabited island. Waves lapped against the shore, the seawater surged violently, and thunderclouds gathered. Ji Huanglin looked at Shiji 6 immortals and said, you guys stay here and wait for us to come out. After that, he waved his hand again and brought Chiyu Boy and Zhou Xuanji away. Shiji 6 immortals looked at each other in dismay but did not say anything. They began patrolling the island to see if there were any restrictions or treasures. They were obsessed with treasure hunting. No matter where they went, they would think of treasures first. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji and the other two landed on a cliff. Behind them were huge waves, and the ocean under the dark clouds seemed to be in a storm. Looking from afar, Zhou Xuanji could see the island where Shiji 6 immortals were when he turned around. The Heaven Fiend Star Island was faintly discernible in the fog in front of them, as though it was a huge beast. Chiyu Boy was so frightened that he sat paralyzed on the ground and almost fell off the cliff. Why must it be here? He cried out in fear, isn't it good to be alive? Zhou Xuanji probed the Heaven Fiend Star Island with his divine sense but realized that a formless and powerful force was blocking his divine sense. Ji Huanglin said, later, we will hide in your sleeves, and you can barge in directly. Don't be afraid of danger. The restrictive spell formation on the Heaven Fiend Star Island only targets living beings in the Heaven Fiend realm. You have just arrived and have not turned into a Heaven Fiend creature yet. He waved his hand again and shrunk himself and Chiyu Boy. Enveloping them with magic energy, they dashed into Zhou Xuanji's sleeves like two flies. Zhou Xuanji summoned demon god Tianwu and walked into the dense fog with the History Asunder sword in hand. Ji Huanglin only said that the restrictive spell was ineffective against him, but he did not say that there were no powerful enemies inside. Normally, there would be many powerful creatures that had lost their minds and were specialized in dealing with trespassers. After entering the dense fog, Zhou Xuanji could only see 6 feet around him, and his divine sense could not penetrate the fog. He was cautious in case of an enemy attack. After advancing for about 8,000 feet, he still hadn't passed through the thick fog. He couldn't help but frown. Why did he feel lost? Continue forward. The Heaven Fiend Star Island is bigger than you imagine. Many people from other worlds also thought that they had lost their way. Hence, they turned back and went around in circles. In the end, they were driven mad. Ji Huanglin's voice came, and Zhou Xuanji no longer hesitated. He began to sprint forward. 50,000 zhang. 10,000 zhang. 100,000 zhang. Zhou Xuanji frowned again. Just how big was the Heaven Fiend Star Island? A woo, the howl of a wolf came from behind. It was eerie and terrifying. He didn't stop. After all, demon god Tianwu was beside him. About the time it took for an incense stick to burn. He finally passed through the thick fog. Mountains rose and fell in front of him. There were no trees or grass, only lava, scorched earth, and rolling thunder clouds. It was like a scene from hell. Ji Huanglin and Qiyu Boy flew out from his sleeves and landed beside Zhou Xuanji. It's over. It's over, Qiyu Boy trembled. Tears flowed down from his eyes uncontrollably, as though he was greatly wronged. Ji Huanglin said, "It's up to me now. Follow me closely. Don't be more than 15 meters away from me, or else I won't be able to save you in time." After that, he walked forward. Qiyu Boy quickly followed him and dared not to cry anymore. Zhou Xuanji followed along with demon god Tianwu. He was very curious about Ji Huanglin's power. Next, he wanted to see how powerful this guy was. Ji Huanglin walked at a steady pace. He looked straight ahead with a calm expression without any surprise. No one could tell what he was thinking. Qiyu Boy was nervous as he looked left and right. The view around him was vast, but he still felt a sense of danger. Boom! A horrifying silhouette charged over suddenly and was blasted away by the formless aura, vomiting blood. Too fast. In the blink of an eye, it flew over from the horizon as though it teleported. Zhou Xuanji and Qiyu Boy looked over. It was a blood monkey with 6 arms and a ferocious face. Its mouth was filled with fangs. After it landed, it rolled a few hundred times before burrowing into the charred ground and disappeared. Qiyu Boy asked in a trembling voice, what was that? He was a universe heaven cultivator, but now, he was like an ordinary person in fear. Zhou Xuanji looked toward Ji Huanglin. He did not see how Ji Huanglin attacked at all. Ji Huanglin did not stop but continued ahead. The Heaven Fiend Star Island is filled with baleful aura and nurtured many ferocious creatures. Countless years have passed, and their power has reached an extremely horrifying level. The surrounding fog is actually a prison to prevent them from charging out. Ji Huanglin explained to Zhou Xuanji and Qiyu Boy. What are you looking for? Qiyu Boy asked with gritted teeth. Why does this guy know the Heaven Fiend Star Island so well? Could it be that he was here before? Why did he come again? He immediately thought of a possibility, which was that the people who accompanied Ji Huanglin were all dead. Zhou Xuanji thought of this possibility too, but his expression did not change. He did not panic. Ji Huanglin glanced at Qiyu Boy and said, something that will kill you after you hear about it. Qiyu Boy was frightened by Ji Huanglin's cold eyes and immediately shut up. After some time, they were attacked consecutively. Those ferocious creatures were blasted away before they could even touch them. Ji Huanglin was ridiculously powerful. Half an hour later, they came to the foot of a volcano. There was a cave entrance here, and the walls of the cave reflected the light of the fire. Ji Huanglin led them into the cave. Pay attention to your feet. Don't step on the rocks. Those rocks have powerful corrosive power. Stepping on them will destroy your soul instantly. Even connecting heaven level 10 cultivators could not last more than 5 breaths. His words made Zhou Xuanji and Qiyu Boy look at the ground instinctively. Zhou Xuanji stored demon god Tianwu into the Tianxia map. Soon, they saw that the ground in front of them was covered with all kinds of rocks. They immediately flew up and left the ground. Fortunately, the cave entrance was high enough, or else it would have been awkward. They walked along the winding tunnel and finally came to the end. In front of them was a cliff, and below them was a sea of lava. The high temperature made Qiyu Boy sweat profusely. Ji Huanglin stood at the edge of the cliff and looked down. His expression was still cold. He did not take any action but looked at them quietly. Qiyu Boy wanted to ask but did not dare to. He could only look at Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji ignored him and looked at the mountain wall opposite him. There was a picture on the gigantic mountain wall. It was carved with some kind of red rock. It was a 9-headed dragon surrounded by dozens of people. It was not a battle but a sacrificial ceremony. Chapter 578. What's that? Zhou Xuanji asked. Chiyu boy followed his gaze and frowned. Dragons with 9 heads were not rare in myths and legends. They were often existences that could destroy the world. The Heaven Fiend domain's ancient demon, Dragon Emperor Yi Ming, is one of the evil spirits. It has the power to destroy heaven and earth. If not for the heavenly saint's descent, it would have nearly eaten the entire Heaven Fiend domain. Ji Huanglin introduced, causing Chiyu boy's entire body to go numb. He asked cautiously, "You're not here to look for it, are you?" If such a giant demon was released, it would definitely be a disaster. He had heard many stories. There were always people who, in pursuit of power, released ancient evil existences. In the end, not only did they throw away their lives, but they also brought disaster to the world. Ji Huanglin replied, "Dragon Emperor Yi Ming is nothing. I don't care about him at all." He looked down and said, "Wait a little longer. Don't make a sound." Chiyu boy wanted to speak but hesitated. Ji Huanglin said no more. The 3 of them fell into silence, while Zhou Xuanji looked around. He also discovered that the other patterns were very strange. They gave off the feeling of vicissitudes of an ancient civilization. What was worth mentioning was that no ferocious beasts attacked them when they arrived here. An hour and a half later, Ji Huanglin suddenly waved his palm downward and sucked in the air. Bang! The surface of the lava exploded, and a head-sized ball of fire flew up and landed on his palm. He turned to look at Zhou Xuanji and Lu Qiue, and he smirked. He smiled and said, "This is the evil fiery bead. Next, I need to find the other evil beads of the other 4 elements, and then head to the central area of the Heaven Fiend Star Island to exchange for what I want. During this process, just tell me what you want." Chiyu boy exclaimed in pleasant surprise, "Really?" Ji Huanglin glanced at him and said, "This is none of your business." Chiyu boy's smile instantly collapsed. Ji Huanglin stored the fiery evil bead and left with Zhou Xuanji and Chiyu boy. For the rest of the journey, Zhou Xuanji plundered whatever he saw without holding back. In any case, he didn't need to do anything. Ji Huanglin could move those treasures to him with a casual wave of his hand. He sensed that these natural treasures contained some kind of demonic aura. If he wanted to use them, he would have to remove the demonic aura. 3 days later, they found the evil water bead. The Heaven Fiend Star Island was very big, and other than this lava land, there were other places with celestial phenomena. For example, a world of ice and snow, a green grassland, a forest filled with autumn leaves, and so on. This island seemed to have formed a world of its own, and it was a very large world. All the ferocious creatures they encountered along the way were killed by Ji Huanglin. None of them even touched the hem of their clothes. Chiyu boy was convinced by Ji Huanglin's strength and was no longer afraid. He could even follow Ji Huanglin to collect some special rocks and flowers. Zhou Xuanji had been observing Ji Huanglin. He always felt that this fellow was very similar to the heavenly saint. He had secretly used the 9-soul fusion technique, but he still couldn't see through Ji Huanglin. In less than half a month, Ji Huanglin had collected the 5 elemental evil beads and brought them to the center of the Heaven Fiend Star Island. Ji Huanglin said, "The next step is the real challenge. Little one, be prepared to die." Chiyu boy was looking around and was shocked when he heard this. "Didn't you say that you could protect us?" he cried out. Ji Huanglin snorted coldly, "That's what I said to him. You are different. I captured you to use you as bait. Don't think that I don't know where you came from. You are the most easily coveted by the demons. If you cooperate, you might have a chance of survival." Chiyu boy's expression changed drastically. He was completely disheartened and almost fainted. Zhou Xuanji looked at Chiyu boy curiously. Could this guy have some extraordinary background? No wonder Ji Huanglin did not bring Shiji 6 immortals but him. Chiyu Boy suddenly turned into a sharp arrow and dashed toward the forest in the east. Ji Huanglin raised his hand and sucked Chiyu Boy over. He grabbed Chiyu Boy's neck and lifted him up high. Let me go. If my master knows about this, you will be dead. Chiyu Boy cried out. His face was red. Ji Huanglin laughed disdainfully and continued forward while choking him. At the end of the horizon, there was a mountain that reached into the clouds. The sky there was very dark and oppressive, and they could vaguely hear the sound of thunder. Such a powerful sense of oppression. What's hiding there? Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly. A strong sense of danger grew in his heart. His instincts told him to stay away from that mountain. But since things had come to this, he wanted to see what Ji Huanglin wanted. Above the sea of clouds, a floating island floated silently. There was a courtyard on the island. Xian Daoya stood outside the courtyard and said with a smile, "Brother C, it's been 1,000,000 years since we last met. Why don't you come out and meet your old friend?" Soon, a cold voice came. "What do you have to meet me for? Or are you seeking death?" This person was called Si Mengyan. He was a transcendent existence that reigned above the great thousand world and had the qualifications to become a saint. Xian Daoya was not frightened. He replied calmly, "About the great Emperor Dao Court. I have already left the great Emperor Dao Court. I can tell you anything you want to know about the great Emperor Dao Court. I only ask that you help me reforge my body." Boom! The door opened, and a gust of wind blew towards Xian Daoya. His expression did not change as he stared fixedly at the main house in the courtyard. Si Mengyan walked out of the house slowly. He wore a black robe with red edges. His face looked sinister, and there were strands of blood-red hair in his black hair. His eyes were like a wolf's, cruel and cold. He stared at Xian Daoya and said, "If you dare to bully me, you should know what the consequences are." Xian Daoya sighed and said, "I have no other way out. The great Emperor Dao Court is too stupid." He was infuriated when he mentioned Zhou Xuanji. The great Emperor Dao Court had been at a high position for a long time. Everyone was proud and arrogant. They did not take any genius seriously. This made him hate them for not living up to his expectations. At the same time, he was even more resentful. He had done his best for the great Emperor Dao Court, but he was still like this. "Why do you say so?" Si Mengyan asked. Xian Daoya immediately told him about Zhou Xuanji. After he finished, Si Mengyan's eyes sparkled. Zhou Xuanji. So it's him. Si Mengyan remembered that old ancestor Hongsher had mentioned Zhou Xuanji to him before. Old ancestor Hongsher claimed that Zhou Xuanji would become his partner in the future. They would become old ancestor Hongsher's 2 sharpest blades. Xian Daoya gritted his teeth and said, "After you take revenge, can you help me get rid of Zhou Xuanji? I can listen to you in the future." Zhou Xuanji grew too quickly. In his heart, Zhou Xuanji was more threatening than Si Mengyan. Si Mengyan said with a faint smile, "Zhou Xuanji? No problem. Help me get rid of the great Emperor Dao Court first." He mocked in his heart. Zhou Xuanji was someone the heavenly saint valued. "You want a scheme to kill him? Fool." Xian Daoya heard him and heaved a sigh of relief. He forced a smile and said, "Let's talk inside." Si Mengyan nodded and walked into the house. Xian Daoya followed closely behind. Chapter 579. After ascending the mountain, the sense of danger in Zhou Xuanji's heart grew even more intense. Even though his field of vision was wide and the mountain was bare, there did not seem to be any danger at first glance. Ji Huanglin had already put Chiyu Boy down. He walked at the very front with a calm expression. It was obvious that this was not his first time here. But with his cultivation, why was he walking so slowly? "Can't I just fly in?" Zhou Xuanji guessed in his heart and felt that he was acting cool. The mountain was very tall. When they were halfway up the mountain, Ji Huanglin stopped and said, How much longer are we going to hide? Chiyu boy grew nervous again. Ji Huanglin did not attack directly. Instead, he tried to force the other party into action. This meant that the other party was very strong. 100 feet up, 2 flame god guards appeared out of thin air. It was none other than Buddha Yangling's wooden doll. They stared at Ji Huanglin expressionlessly and lifelessly. Ji Huanglin sneered and said, "Yangling sent you here. Do you think you can stop me?" He called out the heavenly saint's name without any hesitation. When the 2 flame god guards heard this, they immediately rushed towards Ji Huanglin. There was a loud bang. They were blocked by an invisible force 1 meter away from Ji Huanglin. Hua! Hua! The bodies of the 2 flame god guards suddenly burst into flames. They looked like 2 huge fireballs. Ji Huanglin snorted coldly. He took a step forward and sent the 2 flame god guards flying with his aura. He continued to walk forward. With every step he took, he used an even stronger aura to oppress the flame god guards. The flame god guards suddenly split up and attacked Ji Huanglin from different directions. Ji Huanglin was calm and unruffled. No matter how they attacked, they were unable to touch Ji Huanglin. Instead, they were sent flying again and again. In front of him, the flame god guards were so weak. Chiyu boy asked, "Since you can kill them, why don't you hurry up?" Was he deliberately showing off his strength? He hated Ji Huanglin to the core. If it weren't for Ji Huanglin, he wouldn't be here. Ji Huanglin waved his right hand, and the 2 flame god guards suddenly exploded and turned into ashes. Easy. Domineering. Ji Huanglin's expression remained unchanged as he continued forward. The 2 flame god guards materialized their physical bodies again. They appeared on the left and right sides of Chu Feng, not daring to attack. "Go back and tell Yangling that if he dares to stop me again, the consequences will be worse than he can imagine." Ji Huanglin snorted coldly. His aura suddenly erupted, shaking the entire mountain peak. The 2 flame god guards immediately disappeared. They also understood that they couldn't stop Ji Huanglin, so there was no need to stay here and die. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Who is Yangling? A heaven saint from the Heaven Fiend domain?" Aside from the heavenly saints, who else would have such a grand plan to set up a trap in the Heaven Fiend Star Island? Ji Huanglin replied, "Yes, an ambitious and sinister fellow." His tone was filled with disdain towards Buddha Yangling. "Are you also a heavenly saint?" Zhou Xuanji asked. Ji Huanglin said disdainfully, "A heavenly saint is nothing." He did not say much, but this made Zhou Xuanji think even more. Could it be that this fellow also came from outside the heavenly Tao? Zhou Xuanji already knew about the 3 existences from the Kunlun origin court. Ji Huanglin was the same. But why did he dare to talk back to the heavenly saint? Even the old beggar and the old immortal did not dare to be so presumptuous. There was also the primordial ancestor, who was hiding like an underground rat. All of a sudden, Ji Huanglin punched the mountain wall, creating a huge hole. Dust and dirt surged into the depths of the mountain. "Follow me." After saying this, Ji Huanglin took the lead and stepped into the dust. Zhou Xuanji and Chiyu boy followed closely behind. Chiyu boy did not dare to run anymore. If he did, Ji Huanglin might kill him. They walked into the mountain, and after walking for about 100 meters, they came to a vast space inside the mountain. They saw a gigantic object. Dragon Emperor Yi Ming. It was made of rocks and was hundreds of meters tall. It was vivid and lifelike, and its 9 ferocious dragon heads were horrifying. Chiyu boy trembled in fear and cried out, "Didn't you say that you don't want to revive him?" Ji Huanglin raised his hand and sucked Chiyu boy before throwing him toward Dragon Emperor Yi Ming. Chiyu boy was almost scared out of his wits. He wanted to move but found himself bound by a formless force. He could not even open his mouth to speak. Zhou Xuanji did not interfere but waited quietly. Ji Huanglin took out the 5 elemental evil bead and threw it to Chiyu boy. Chiyu boy's eyes widened and were filled with despair. The 5-elemental evil bead gave off a brilliant radiance that illuminated the entire mountain. A powerful gale rose from below, swaying Chiyu Boy like a fallen leaf in the wind. Dragon Emperor Yi Ming's stone statue moved as well. The 9 dragon heads turned and looked at the 5-elemental evil bead on Chiyu Boy. It's over. My life is over. Chiyu Boy closed his eyes and wailed in his heart. If there was a next life, he would surely make Ji Huanglin pay. Don't stray too far from me. I will let you broaden your horizons. Ji Huanglin's voice came into Zhou Xuanji's ears, which made him squint his eyes. He immediately activated the 9 soul fusion technique and fused with demon god Tianwu and demon god Nanming. The 5-elemental evil bead trembled violently and exploded with a powerful radiance. The radiance shattered everything around it, and the mountain walls disappeared. Zhou Xuanji felt his vision blur. Everything changed and was replaced by a brilliant starry sky. Only him, Ji Huanglin, Chiyu Boy, and Dragon Emperor Yi Ming were left in the starry sky. It was like an illusion. Ji Huanglin raised his right hand, and the 5-elemental evil bead shot a beam of light upward and disappeared into the starry sky. A while later, a beam of red light shot down and landed on Ji Huanglin's right palm. He smiled and mumbled, "Heavenly Law Jade, I finally found you." Heavenly Law Jade. Zhou Xuanji frowned. He knew what this name meant. What is this guy trying to do? Does he want to control the heavenly law? Or is he targeting the heavenly law? Zhou Xuanji thought of countless possibilities. He did not make a move but waited patiently. Roar, Dragon Emperor Yi Ming came back to life completely. He roared at Ji Huanglin with a violent aura. The 9 dragon heads opened their mouths at the same time, and flames of all colors surged toward Ji Huanglin like a flood. The flames gathered together and were tens of thousands of miles wide. It was unstoppable. Ji Huanglin raised the red beam with his right hand and slapped with his left palm. The palm wind howled and blocked the billowing sea of flames forcefully. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji felt his true power. Even after merging with 2 demon gods, he still felt that he was no match for Ji Huanglin. What is this guy's cultivation? Little specter, you dare to fight me? Ji Huanglin laughed condescendingly. He pushed with his left arm, and the sea of flames was pushed back. Chiyu Boy, who was protected by the 5-elemental evil bead, cried out in fear. His face was pale. Amitabha. At this moment, a solemn Buddha's voice came. A giant golden palm descended from the sky and landed on Ji Huanglin's head so quickly that Zhou Xuanji could not react in time. Ji Huanglin was caught off guard, and his right hand was separated from the red beam as he fell. A ray of light shot out from the pillar of red light toward Zhou Xuanji. He grabbed it instinctively and saw that it was 1.5 meters long purple crystal. Heavenly Law Jade. I have countless legendary swords. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 580. Zhou Xuanji looked at the heavenly law jade in his hand with a strange expression. Why did it fall into his hands so coincidentally? Was this fate? Ji Huanglin was pressed down by the golden palm, and seeing the heavenly law jade fall into Zhou Xuanji's hands, he suddenly stopped. He narrowed his eyes and used his aura to shatter the golden palm. He leaped up and passed by Zhou Xuanji, charging upwards. Zhou Xuanji held the heavenly law jade and hesitated. Should he take it? Would Ji Huanglin mind if he took it? No matter what, since it was already in his hands, there was no reason for him to let it go. If someone else snatched it away, would Ji Huanglin vent his anger on him? He raised his head and saw a golden light growing larger at the end of the starry sky. He narrowed his eyes. It was a golden Buddha. Buddha Yangling. Zhou Xuanji immediately thought of the heavenly saint of this realm and immediately retreated. The last time was during the battle of heavenly saints. He was caught in the crossfire and had no choice but to be reborn. After the heavenly law jade appeared, Chiyu Boy suddenly broke free from the 5 elemental evil beads and flew toward Zhou Xuanji in a frenzy. Only Zhou Xuanji could give him a sense of security. On the other side, Ji Huanglin and Buddha Yangling were engaged in a fierce battle. Ji Huanglin displayed his full strength. His palms were like the wind, and he was able to fight Buddha Yangling head-on with just his palms. Buddha Yangling held the prayer beads in his left hand and a golden pestle in his right. He was upright and mighty, and he exuded an imposing aura without being angry. He relied on the golden pestle to receive all of Ji Huanglin's attacks. Ji Huanglin, you've gone too far. Do you really want to shed all pretense of cordiality with me? Buddha Yangling shouted with a calm expression. A massive wave of heavenly might descended. Even Zhou Xuanji and Chiyu Boy, who were far away, were shocked, especially Chiyu Boy, who felt that his soul would dissipate at any moment. He cried out in horror, "Heavenly Saint!" Buddha Yangling, all his hopes turned to dust, and his vision darkened as he tottered in the starry sky. Zhou Xuanji looked up at their battle, hoping to gain something. However, a heavenly saint's battle was just too terrifying. The might of the heavens made it impossible for his divine sense to get close, and his eyes were blocked by the continuous waves of dharmic power. Humph. If I want something, I must get it. Ji Huanglin snorted coldly. His eyes were filled with anger. He had already obtained the heavenly Tao Jade, but Buddha Yangling had come out to kill him. This made his heart burn with rage. The more he fought, the stronger he became. His aura shook the starry sky, and as far as the eye could see, the entire starry sky was fluctuating and distorting, causing one to feel dizzy. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt the heavenly law jade in his hand heat up. He subconsciously shook off the heavenly Tao jade. Chiyu Boy's eyes lit up and he immediately reached out to catch it. Bang! A violent force erupted from within the heavenly law jade, and it shook Chiyu Boy so much that he vomited blood and was sent flying. Zhou Xuanji frowned and stepped back instinctively. However, the heavenly Tao jade emitted a suction force that directly pulled him in. The distance between the two of them rapidly shortened. Impossible. Zhou Xuanji gritted his teeth and resisted with all his might. He immediately fused demon god Jihuang into his body, and his strength reached an unprecedented level. Even so, he was only able to slow down his speed and was unable to offset this suction force at all. Very soon, he bumped into the heavenly Tao jade. The heavenly Tao jade fused into his corporeal body. He looked up at Ji Huanglin and shouted angrily, "Your jade!" A powerful light exploded and engulfed his body in an instant. Ji Huanglin and Buddha Yangling stopped as well. His expression changed drastically and quickly charged toward Zhou Xuanji, but he was stopped by Buddha Yangling. "It's too late. The heavenly law jade has already chosen its master. Even if we take it back by force, the heavenly law jade will dissipate," Buddha Yangling said calmly. Buddha Yangling said calmly, but his heart ached. He had spent a lot of effort on this heavenly law jade. And this brat got it before him. Most importantly, he noticed that Zhou Xuanji was very resistant and did not want the heavenly law jade. This attitude made him feel even worse. Ji Huanglin's chest heaved in anger. His eyes glowed with a faint red light, and his aura became extremely terrifying. Buddha Yangling's expression changed slightly and said with a deep voice, "Don't do anything rash." Ji Huanglin heard him and tried to calm himself down. All his efforts were in vain. He felt even worse than Buddha Yangling. He turned to look at Buddha Yangling and asked with gritted teeth, "Why did it turn out like this? Was it you who did this?" Buddha Yangling heard him and his expression darkened. "You know the importance of the heavenly law jade the best. Why would I be willing to give it to him?" The heavenly law jade only felt that he was most suitable to inherit the power of the heavenly law. Ji Huanglin frowned. Within the powerful light, Zhou Xuanji could not move, but he could sense a violent power enveloping him. Ding! The power of the heavenly law wishes to turn the host into a heavenly saint. Do you accept? Once you accept, the host will become a heavenly saint and forever be a slave to the heavenly law. The host will never be able to surpass the heavenly saint. The sword spirit's voice suddenly sounded out in Zhou Xuanji's mind. Reject. He replied without hesitation. Because the primordial ancestor's enemy, the heavenly saint, could not be his final destination. He wanted to become more powerful. Please choose a legendary sword to inherit the power of the heavenly law and escape. The sword spirit's voice sounded out quickly. It was obvious that the situation was urgent. Zhou Xuanji chose the thunderclap sword straightaway. The thunderclap sword became more powerful by relying on heavenly lightning. It was already similar to the heavenly law. Next, the powerful light around him quickly entered his body. He saw the vast starry sky again. He heaved a long sigh. Ji Huanglin and Buddha Yangling landed in front of him at the same time and spoke at the same time. Where's the heavenly law, Jade? What happened? Zhou Xuanji replied calmly, the heavenly law Jade wanted me to become a heavenly saint, but I rejected it. With this, Ji Huanglin and Buddha Yangling's expressions changed. Ji Huanglin asked closely, where's the heavenly law, Jade? Where did it go? Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, I'm not sure. After I rejected it, it disappeared. The supreme legendary sword system had fused with his soul, and the supreme storage was also deep within his soul. He did not believe that Ji Huanglin could find it. Ji Huanglin raised his hand and pressed down on his shoulder. There's no heavenly law, Jade, in your body. It shouldn't be, he said with a frown. Buddha Yangling asked with a complicated expression, why did you reject becoming a heavenly saint? Countless beings fought to become a heavenly saint, but this brat rejected becoming a heavenly saint. As a heavenly saint, he felt that his faith was being looked down upon. I want to become a saint, but not a heavenly saint. In my eyes, the path of a powerful cultivator is endless, and the heavenly saint should not be the final destination, Zhou Xuanji replied calmly. If he became a heavenly saint, perhaps Buddha Yangling would instead act against him. Buddha Yangling looked at him deeply and understood what he was thinking. This brat had a clone of an ancient demon god. Evidently, he wanted to walk the path of an overlord saint. What are you still doing here? Ji Huanglin glanced at Buddha Yangling and asked coldly. Buddha Yangling sighed. His body turned into nothingness and disappeared. Zhou Xuanji looked at Ji Huanglin and asked curiously, who are you? How dare you treat a heavenly saint like this? Chapter 581. Facing Zhou Xuanji's question, Ji Huanglin did not reply. Instead, he looked at Zhou Xuanji with a complicated gaze. Kid, do you think I should kill you now? He had always admired Zhou Xuanji, and if Zhou Xuanji had taken the initiative to steal the heavenly law jade, he would have acted without hesitation. But Zhou Xuanji was very resistant back then. This made him very conflicted. Zhou Xuanji did not panic and replied, if I were you, I would not kill them. Ji Huanglin narrowed his eyes and asked, why? The murderous intent locked onto Zhou Xuanji, which sent a chill down his spine. His expression was calm as he said, there is no why. Ji Huanglin just stared at him. Their eyes met in silence. After a long while, Ji Huanglin slowly turned around with his back to Zhou Xuanji and said, Zhou Xuanji, you are indeed not simple. If it was someone else, you might already be dead. Our agreement is voided. From now on, don't let me see you again. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding starry sky suddenly shattered like a mirror falling to the ground. Ji Huanglin took 3 steps forward and came to the cliff. He turned around and looked at Zhou Xuanji with a creepy evil smile, as though he had become another person. He said with a cold smile, it's impossible to pursue the path of the Overlord Saint, unless the heavenly law is destroyed. Otherwise, you will be tricked to death by the heavenly saint. Brat, the world is deeper than you can imagine. You are just a chess piece. Is the path you want to walk really your own decision? He suddenly fell backwards and disappeared from the cliff. Roar, a domineering dragon roar rang out as a golden dragon wrapped in crimson flames soared into the sky. It broke through the top of the mountain and disappeared into the sky. The entire peak shook violently, and countless gravel slid down. Zhou Xuanji looked up and muttered, "So he's a dragon." He turned around and prepared to leave. He glanced at Chiyu boy, who was not far away, and used all things return to origin, pulling the boy into his hand. Carrying Chiyu boy, he quickly charged out of the collapsed mountain. Under the rolling dark clouds, a sandstorm filled the sky. Figures were fighting fiercely in the sandstorm. The ground below was smashed to pieces. Huge rocks were flipped upside down like thorns. Boom! A figure fell down, smashing into the ruins and causing the ground to cave in again. Looking closer, it was Chiu Hu. There was a wound on his chest, and fresh blood flowed out incessantly. His white bones shone with a cold light. He gritted his teeth and looked up. His eyes were bloodshot. He spat out a mouthful of blood foam and cursed, "Damn it." He got up again, ready to kill. Golden pillars of light descended and landed on the broken ground, quickly forming a formation. The top of the golden pillars gave off strands of golden light that wove together to form a ceiling. There were countless strange runes on the ceiling that blocked Chiu Hu's way. No matter what Chiu Hu did, he could not break free. 5 silhouettes appeared on the golden formation. They all wore identical white robes and had a black horsetail whisk pattern imprinted on their backs. They looked down at Chiu Hu and began to communicate without restraint. As expected of the first tiger since the birth of the heavenly Tao. It can be refined into a great supplement pill for breakthroughs. His tiger bones can be refined into magic treasures. It's rare to see someone with such powerful qi and blood. Looks like the great 1,000 worlds outside aren't as weak as we thought. Tiger's penis is also not bad. Chiu Hu almost exploded in anger. Who was he? He was the tiger ancestor. How could he be humiliated like this? He roared and tried to break the formation. But no matter how he attacked, it was futile. The leader, a middle-aged man, raised his right palm and looked down at Chiu Hu. Heaven sealing Tao seal. He cried out. A golden Tao word parted the sea of clouds and smashed down. This word was incredibly vast. Before it, any existence would seem insignificant. It was majestic and domineering, as though the sky was collapsing. No, Chiu Hu opened his eyes wide. His eyes were red as he roared. On Heaven Fiend's Star Island. Zhou Xuanji sat at the foot of the mountain. Behind him was a crimson rock, while Chiyu boy lay beside him like a corpse. After Ji Huanglin left, he did not act rashly. He decided to wait for the thunderclap sword to level up before he acted. This island was too dangerous after all. He gave the heavenly law's power to the thunderclap sword, hoping that it would have the destructive power of a heavenly saint. Demon god Jihuang and demon god Tianwu appeared in front of and behind him on the crimson rock to prevent any sneak attacks. In the blink of an eye. 7 days passed. The thunderclap sword leveled up successfully. The sword spirit's voice sounded in his mind. Next, the thunderclap sword's attribute list appeared before his eyes. Sword name, Thunderclap sword grade, 9 extreme description, a legendary sword forged with the heavenly law's power. The more lightning it absorbs, the more destructive it will be. 9 extreme. Zhou Xuanji was delighted. He was not disappointed indeed. Most importantly, there was no threshold to the stage. He immediately took out the thunderclap sword. A long sword that was flashing with lightning appeared. Compared to the original thunderclap sword, it looked different and more majestic. He got up slowly with the thunderclap sword in his hand. He could sense its violent power. It was as though it could destroy everything in the world. So powerful. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he smiled in high spirits. The Saint Slayer sword was also a 9 extreme legendary sword, but it required connecting heaven level 10 cultivation and could only be used once a year. Compared to it, the thunderclap sword felt so good. The sound of interweaving lightning woke Chiyu boy up. He got up in terror and asked with a trembling voice, "I'm not dead?" He fixed his eyes on the thunderclap sword and stepped back instinctively. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, "You dared to snatch my things. Are you going to follow me or act on your own?" Qiyu Boy did not understand the situation. But since Ji Huanglin and Buddha Yangling were not around, he knew that the danger was over. "If I follow you, you won't use me as bait again, right?" he asked carefully. Zhou Xuanji ignored him and left. The two demon gods followed him on both sides, like Guan Yu and Zhang Fei on Liu Bei's left and right. Qiyu Boy gritted his teeth and quickly followed. They walked for less than 100 meters when two ear-piercing sounds came. Zhou Xuanji immediately raised his sword. Horrifying heavenly lightning exploded and bombarded the ground around them. The two ferocious creatures cried out and were immediately killed. Qiyu Boy was dumbfounded. What sword is this? So domineering. He was immediately convinced and cried out, "I'll follow you. I'll do anything you want me to." Zhou Xuanji smiled. He looked around the Heaven Fiend Star Island and had a bold idea. The massive Heaven Fiend Star Island was for him to plunder. He decided to plunder everything on this island. At the same time, inside the Heavenly Saint Palace, Buddha Yangling opened his eyes. "That sword," he mumbled with a frown. "Power of heavenly law. What a brat. He dared to deceive me." A cold light flashed in his eyes. Chapter 582. Buddha Yangling pondered for a moment, then immediately got up and disappeared from the Heavenly Saint Palace. In the next second, he arrived at the Heaven Fiend Star Island. He looked down at Zhou Xuanji and said expressionlessly, "Zhou Xuanji, hurry up and give me your sword." Because of old ancestor Hongshi, he did not want to attack Zhou Xuanji. Having heard this, Zhou Xuanji looked up at him. Upon seeing him, Qiyu Boy hurriedly hid behind demon god Tianwu. Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes and said, "The Heavenly Saint wants to take it by force?" He deliberately emphasized the word, Heavenly Saint. In the eyes of all living beings, Heavenly Saints had no desires, so why would they forcefully attack a sword? Buddha Yangling snorted coldly and said, "Don't think that I don't know that you fused the Heavenly Tao Jade into this sword. Although I don't know what method you used to forge this sword in such a short time, I advise you to return it to me, and I will forgive you for your crime of lying. The Heavenly Tao Jade was originally mine." Zhou Xuanji fell silent. This was indeed the case. But the thunderclap sword was also his. He said, "The Heavenly Tao Jade is indeed precious, but I can't give you my sword. How about I owe you a promise? As long as I can do it, you can mention it at any time. One day, I will become an overlord saint and make this promise count." His gaze was fixed on Buddha Yangling. If Buddha Yangling refused, then they could only fight. Buddha Yangling frowned and instinctively wanted to angrily rebuke Zhou Xuanji. However, seeing the look in Zhou Xuanji's eyes, he could not say anything. Sage Daojing trusted Zhou Xuanji so much that he gave him the heavenly law Violet Qi. Old ancestor Hongshi protected him with all his might. Could this brat really become an overlord saint? Buddha Yangling fell into deep thought. The heavenly Tao Jade was not that important to him. After all, he could not nurture another heavenly saint. But if he could help Zhou Xuanji become an overlord saint, he would not have to share the heavenly law's power with him in the future, and he might even have a chance to survive. He clearly remembered how strong an overlord saint was. A domineering figure appeared in his mind, causing him to fall into a trance. Zhou Xuanji did not continue speaking but waited quietly. Qiyu Boy, on the other hand, was dumbstruck. Was that even possible? To him, Zhou Xuanji's request was absurd. Buddha Yangling, however, seemed to believe it. Was the heavenly saint a fool? He just had this thought arise in his mind when Buddha Yangling glanced at him, and it terrified him to the point his entire body shuddered before he hurriedly knelt down and prostrated himself on the ground. After a while, Buddha Yangling looked deeply at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Apart from this promise, you also have to promise that you will never be my enemy." Zhou Xuanji was not surprised but replied, "As long as you don't target the people around me, I will always remember this favor." He spoke with sincerity. Buddha Yangling had heard about his past from Patriarch Hongshe, so he believed him. "I hope you can really become an overlord saint. It's been a long time since I've seen an overlord saint." After saying this, Buddha Yangling disappeared. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow. An overlord saint had appeared before? Who else could do something that even the 10 great fiend celestials could not do? He didn't think too much and continued forward with Chiyu Boy. Chiyu Boy was completely convinced and began to crazily flatter him. He could not wait to submit to Zhou Xuanji. Before he entered the Heaven Fiend Star Island, he did not expect that the final winner would be Zhou Xuanji. Ji Huanglin gained nothing, and Buddha Yangling retreated. It was simply unbelievable. A month later, Zhou Xuanji and Chiyu Boy walked out of the Heaven Fiend Star Island. His face was full of smiles. He had gained a lot from this trip, which was beyond his expectations. Chiyu Boy was in a good mood too. He had freeloaded many treasures from Zhou Xuanji. Although they were not as good as Zhou Xuanji's, he was still satisfied. "Boss, where are you going next?" Chiyu Boy asked curiously. On the Heaven Fiend Star Island, Zhou Xuanji had experimented before. He could use the Thunderclap sword to tear open the space of the Heaven Fiend realm and enter the void. So he already had a way to return. "Let's find a place to sell some treasures first," Zhou Xuanji replied. He wanted to buy a large number of Heaven Fiend pills and distribute them to Emperor Sword Court's disciples so that they could grow more powerful quickly. After that, he brought Chiyu Boy to the deserted island where the Shiji 6 immortals were. The Shiji 6 immortals were still there. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji had returned, they quickly came up to him. They fought to ask what had happened during this period of time. Before Zhou Xuanji could speak, Chiyu Boy told him first with a proud expression, as though he was Zhou Xuanji. After he spoke, the Shiji 6 immortals were stunned for a long time. In their hearts, the heavenly saint was the most powerful existence. But they did not expect such an existence to compromise with Zhou Xuanji. Shiji 5 looked at Zhou Xuanji with admiration in his eyes. She was the only woman among the 6 immortals, and she had never been so moved before. She had been moved before, but she had severed her feelings and continued to wander the world with the 5 immortals. Throughout her life, she had never seen such a genius. He was only 300 years old. "Okay, each of you pick one." Zhou Xuanji waved his right hand, and dozens of treasures appeared on the ground. There were enchanted treasures, rare resources, materials for artifact refinement, energy technique scrolls, and so on. Since ancient times, countless people had ventured into the Heaven Fiend Star Island and died. Their treasures were left on the island. Some were eroded by time, but some were still there. The Shiji 6 immortals were overjoyed and began to choose delightfully. Chiyu Boy looked disdainful. He made up his mind to suck up to Zhou Xuanji. Even Buddha Yangling believed that Zhou Xuanji could become a saint. This was a very powerful backer. Half an hour later, they flew toward a direction at full speed across the turbulent ocean. Half a day later, they flew onto the continent. Under the lead of the Shiji 6 immortals, they decided to head toward the most prosperous city in the Heaven Fiend realm. Zhou Xuanji wanted to sell too many treasures. Ordinary cities could not afford all of them. Chiyu Boy began to mingle with the Shiji 6 immortals. They all decided to follow Zhou Xuanji. Chiyu Boy was a universe heaven cultivator after all. He was skilled in artifact refinement and alchemy. He was a talent that Emperor Sword Court lacked and was worth roping in. The Shiji 6 immortals were even more so. Each of them had their own strengths. Other than connecting heaven level 2, they were also skilled in other areas. The Heaven Fiend realm was vast. They only arrived at the True Spirit City after half a month. The True Spirit City had the True Spirit Palace as its backing. It had a population of over 100 million and was the trading center of the entire Heaven Fiend realm. The True Spirit Palace was an overlord-class faction in the Heaven Fiend realm. It was established when the Heaven Fiend realm was born and was promoted by the Heavenly Saint. After entering the True Spirit City, Zhou Xuanji was stunned by the prosperity of the city. The streets were wide, and even the narrowest one was 30 meters wide. There were many buildings and people walking to and fro. There were stalls everywhere, and there were pavilions that were as tall as mountains. They were like modern skyscrapers in China, or even taller. They had an antique feel to them. It was not the Shiji 6 immortals' first time here. They brought Zhou Xuanji to the largest auction house. He had many treasures with him. Only by auctioning them could he earn the most. However, along the way, he heard a piece of news that made him frown. Chapter 583. The 5 ancestors of the True Spirit Palace had captured the tiger ancestor, who had just emerged from the heavenly Tao. They were going to invite all the heroes in the world to kill the tiger in front of everyone. When Zhou Xuanji heard the passing cultivators mention this, he frowned. No wonder there was no news of Qiu Hu. He had been captured by the True Spirit Palace's 5 ancestors. After Qiu Hu had submitted to him, he had been extremely loyal, making him highly valued. It seemed like he had to think of a way to save Qiu Hu. However, there was still some time before the day of the tiger's death. He could auction off his treasures before that. He was indifferent and continued to follow the Shiji 6 immortals. It was also the first time Chiyu Boy had come to the True Spirit City. He was very excited and looked around, but soon fell behind. Zhou Xuanji ignored him. With his cultivation, he would catch up sooner or later. Along the way, they found an inn with empty rooms. Zhou Xuanji returned to his room to rest for a while. He took out a stalk of concealment grass. After consuming it, he became invisible and rushed to the True Spirit Palace. The True Spirit Palace was located behind the True Spirit City. It occupied 10,000 miles of land and had over 100 million disciples. His speed was extremely fast as he rushed towards the most heavily guarded area. Soon, he arrived at the True Spirit Palace. There were all kinds of cities all over the mountains, and there were even floating islands in the sky. Compared to the True Spirit City, it was just as prosperous. Many disciples of the True Spirit Palace were fighting under the sky, so the patrolling disciples did not see them. As one of the overlords of the Heaven Fiend domain, the True Spirit Palace did not need to be on guard. No one dared to barge in. Zhou Xuanji traveled quickly and began looking for prisons. There were many prisons in the True Spirit Palace. Some were in the air, and some were hidden underground. Most of them were living beings who had committed crimes in the True Spirit City. The city lord and the city guards were all from the True Spirit Palace. If the disciples of the True Spirit Palace had children, they would also put them in the True Spirit City, where they could live and multiply. The other side. In the dark prison, Qiu Hu was chained to the wall. His body leaned forward and hung powerlessly. Blood flowed down his fingers and chin and dripped to the ground, forming a pool of blood below. He looked like he was in a coma, but he was actually trying his best to accumulate magic power. Damn it, just what kind of technique is the Heaven Sealing Tao imprint? Why can't I summon any of my chi? Qiu Hu roared in his heart. He didn't dare to make the slightest movement in case the True Spirit 5 ancestors were even more guarded against him. He also knew about the plan to unload the tiger. To put it bluntly, he wanted to dismember him in front of all the heroes of the world. Apart from boosting the prestige of the True Spirit Palace, they were also selling his organs. The Heaven Emanations domain was filled with rejection and even hostility towards the living beings of the outside world. That was why no creature would sympathize with him. Instead, they would all come to watch the show and treat him like livestock. Every time he thought of this, Qiu Hu would feel a wave of sorrow. It seemed like he was going to die here. It was a pity that he did not see Zhou Xuanji's posture of climbing to the peak. The more he thought about it, the more bitter he felt. After a while, a voice transmission suddenly entered his ears. "Are you okay?" Qiu Hu's body trembled. He did not raise his head, thinking that he had heard wrongly. Because the voice came from Zhou Xuanji. After coming to the Heaven Fiend realm, he searched for Zhou Xuanji for a long time but could not find him. How was it possible for this kid to enter the depths of the True Spirit Palace? After a while, I'll come and save you. I need to sell something in the True Spirit City first. Zhou Xuanji stood in front of the prison door and continued to transmit his voice. He was in a concealed state, so Qiu Hu could not see him at all. Qiu Hu could not even sense his aura. Now, Qiu Hu was completely convinced. He did not look up and did not reply. However, he slightly nodded, causing Zhou Xuanji to smile. This fellow was quite cautious and calm. Zhou Xuanji did not say anything else and quickly left. Unbeknownst to anyone. High up in the sky, within a luxurious palace, the 5 ancestors were cultivating around a large cauldron. They simultaneously opened their eyes. Why did Qiu Hu nod? He seemed to be communicating with someone. Impossible, I didn't sense any other aura. It's better to be careful. It said that after Qiu Hu came to the Heaven Fiend realm, he was looking for someone. How about we move over? The 5 ancestors quickly came up with an idea. They all moved and disappeared from the palace. They came to the outside of Qiu Hu's prison and continued to cultivate. Qiu Hu looked up and said hatefully, "Why don't you kill me now?" He was worried that Zhou Xuanji would come to die, so he tried to provoke him. He knew that Zhou Xuanji was very powerful, but the 5 ancestors were even more terrifying. This was especially so for the Heaven Sealing Dao Seal. It was almost undefeatable and could not be dodged. Facing Qiu Hu's words, the 5 ancestors did not reply and focused on cultivating, treating him like livestock. Qiu Hu was incredibly angry, but there was nothing he could do. After returning to the True Spirit City, Zhou Xuanji silently waited in his room while the Shiji 6 immortals went to contact an auction house. There were many auction houses, and auction houses in the True Spirit City, and there was business almost every day. Ordinary people had to queue up to auction with them. The Shiji 6 immortals all had connecting Heaven Realm to cultivation and had traveled extensively for countless years. They had quite a bit of prestige. In less than half a day, they found an auction house. Shiji 5 came to invite Zhou Xuanji. The 2 of them quickly came to this auction house. The person who received them was an elder wearing exquisite robes and a hoodie. He gave a warm smile and walked up and cupped his fists as he said, "Senior, you can call me Old Willow. How many treasures are you preparing to sell? Can you take them out to have a look so we can discuss the starting price?" The auction houses also wanted to sell their items, but if the price was too high, no one would bid. In the cultivation world, very few people would forcefully bid for something just to show off. Everyone was after the word profit. Zhou Xuanji walked to a long table and waved his right hand, and treasures appeared one after another. There were spirit stones, enchanted treasures, flowers, fruits, spirit water, scrolls, etc. There were 72 in total. These treasures were just the tip of the iceberg in the supreme storage, but it was enough for this auction house. Old Willow's eyes widened and he instinctively went up, his body trembling. "So many, we can open a special auction." "No. We've struck it rich. My heavens." Old Willow was so excited that he began to speak incoherently. He could sense the boundless spirit chi contained within each treasure. The Shiji 6 immortals all looked quite pleased, while Zhou Xuanji was quite calm. Old Willow's attitude towards Zhou Xuanji became even more respectful. He started to appraise the items one by one. Zhou Xuanji did not make things difficult for him and nodded in agreement to most of them. The Shiji 6 immortals would occasionally speak, and the atmosphere was quite harmonious. Finally, Old Willow said seriously, "I will advertise for a few days before opening a special auction for you. We will only take 10% of the profits from the starting price. How about that?" He was very sincere and not greedy because he knew that he would definitely make a lot of money from this auction. The most important thing was Zhou Xuanji himself. To have so many treasures and to have the Shiji 6 immortals work for him, he was definitely not simple and was worth roping in. Chapter 584. After walking out of the auction house, Zhou Xuanji planned to walk around alone. As for the Shiji 6 immortals, they went to contact other auction houses. Zhou Xuanji planned to auction the treasures separately. He had already handed the treasures to the Shiji 6 immortals. He trusted them and was not worried that they would run away with the treasures. He wandered around the true spirit city without any destination in mind. Not long after, he met Chiyu Boy. This guy began to set up a stall again. His voice was extremely loud, and he bragged about low-quality goods in an attempt to cheat people. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and laughed. He did not disturb him. He was observing the true spirit city situation. He wanted to build a city like this in the future so that the disciples of Emperor Sword Court could be self-sufficient and live in peace. At the same time, he could establish connections with the Great Thousand World. He walked slowly among the crowd. Suddenly, someone bumped into his shoulder. He frowned slightly and glanced over. With his cultivation, how could he be bumped by someone? Just now, he instinctively dodged, but the other party bumped into him accurately. It was a long-haired man dressed in black. His hair was disheveled, and his back looked bleak. He looked back at Zhou Xuanji with his peripheral vision. That eye actually had a double pupil. Their eyes met, and the two stopped at the same time. This guy, Zhou Xuanji narrowed his eyes. He could not see through this person. The man in black gave a meaningful smile before continuing to walk away. Pa. Zhou Xuanji stretched out his hand and pressed on his shoulder. Do we know each other? The man in black did not look back and said, Zhou Xuanji, you do not have much time left. The fate that was predestined from the beginning is coming. I hope you have the ability to bear it. After that, he turned into a puff of smoke and dissipated. The strangest thing was that none of the living beings that were passing by noticed this. Zhou Xuanji looked out of place. He frowned deeply and mumbled, the fate that was predestined from the beginning? How strange. Could it be that he encountered a lunatic? He turned around and continued walking, but the man in black was still in his mind. This person's cultivation was unfathomable. What was his motive? Could it be someone from the great Emperor Dao Court? Was the great Emperor Dao Court so powerful that they placed their subordinates in the Heaven Fiend realm? Or were they sent by Buddha Yangling? He thought about it as he walked. The Netherworld. On the Bridge of Helplessness, Judge Chui and a black shadow stood side by side, looking at the surging yellow spring. Magistrate Chui's face turned ugly. He gritted his teeth and asked, Really? A cold female voice floated out from the black shadow. That's right. Magistrate Chui was instantly discouraged, and he became extremely depressed. He smiled bitterly and said, I paid so much, but it was all for naught. His emotions were complicated. Even he himself could not tell if it was regret or unwillingness. Judge Chui, the higher-ups think very highly of you. Keep up the good work, and perhaps one day, you will become the king of hell. The black shadow said faintly. His voice was still enough to make people feel numb. Magistrate Chui turned to look at her and asked, What will he do next? The black shadow replied, Karma will destroy him. You just have to wait quietly. If he comes looking for you again, you should know what to do. Magistrate Chui sighed instead of nodding. He looked at the yellow springs and said in a low voice, What is the meaning of cultivation? Fighting for one's life, isn't it fate? The shadow didn't reply, instead dissipating on the Bridge of Helplessness. 7 days later. Zhou Xuanji received the Heaven Fiend pills from the 2 auctions, totaling 86 million Heaven Fiend pills. He was quite satisfied. A Heaven Fiend pill contained quite a lot of spirit chi after all. Boss, what are we going to do next? Old Immortal Shiji asked excitedly. They had earned quite a lot too. They had obtained many treasures from Zhou Xuanji and sold them to the auction house. All of them were above the reserve price, which made them so happy that they could not close their mouths. Only Chiyu Boy was unhappy. He did not earn much from his stall. Zhou Xuanji replied, there will be a fierce battle next. I'm going to save a subordinate. With this, Shiji's 6 immortals and Qiyu boy looked at him in astonishment. A subordinate? Didn't Zhou Xuanji come from another great thousand world? Could someone else have entered the heaven fiend realm with him? They suddenly thought of a name, and their expressions changed drastically. The tiger ancestor Qiu Hu. He had only entered the heaven fiend realm recently, and the news of the tiger banquet had already spread across the true spirit city. Their hearts beat faster. The tiger ancestor was Zhou Xuanji's subordinate. They were not afraid but excited. Next, they were going to wreak havoc in the true spirit palace. Hee, I'm going to join the battle too. Qiyu boy cried out excitedly, and the Shiji 6 immortals also spoke. They had a tacit understanding and did not mention Qiu Hu. To be able to cultivate to this day, they were naturally very smart. We'll act when the tiger banquet is about to begin, Zhou Xuanji said. He had been to the true spirit palace before, and it was indeed heavily guarded. To prevent any accidents, they would only act after a while. If they caused chaos, the true spirit palace would be even more difficult to deal with. After the thunderclap sword leveled up to 9 extreme legendary sword, each swing of his sword consumed a lot of energy. Even with the Tianxia map to replenish his celestial energy, he had to be wary of enemies who could deal a fatal blow to him in the dark. The reason why he was so worried was mainly because of the man in black that day. The group returned to the inn. In the following period of time, they went their own ways and met again at night, just in case anyone went missing. In the blink of an eye. 3 months passed, and the true spirit city became more and more crowded. The stone platform for the tiger banquet had already been built at the north of the city, and all sorts of legends about Qiu Hu spread throughout the city. It was as though he was a rare treasure, and his flesh could allow anyone to become an immortal with just a bite. This day, Zhou Xuanji was eating and drinking at the edge of the inn's 4th floor. From here, he could see the bustling true spirit city. At this moment, someone walked up to him and sat down. He glanced over and saw a lady in palace attire. She had a pretty face and a dignified demeanor. Her beautiful eyes were fixed on him. Zhou Xuanji, are you ready? The lady in palace attire asked calmly. Zhou Xuanji glanced at her and asked, who are you? Recently, he had met 6 people who came to him out of nowhere and asked him if he was ready to accept his fate, just like the man in black that he met previously. Each time Zhou Xuanji wanted to capture these people, they would disappear as though they were never there. He understood that he was being targeted. When you become more powerful, you will be closer to your fate. The lady in palace attire said calmly, which made Zhou Xuanji roll his eyes. Lunatics. He suddenly noticed that this lady looked so much like the great Zhou's empress. He squinted his eyes, and the lady's face began to blur. I see. This lady was not real. Could she be created by some divine ability? He fell into deep thought and ignored the lady's muttering. A while later. Like the others, the lady in palace attire turned into smoke and disappeared. He took out the ancient god's sword with his left hand and placed it on the table to discuss this with the souls. Sovereign Xian sighed and said, could it be that you are being targeted by another heavenly saint? Chapter 585. Sovereign Xian's words made Zhou Xuanji think of the heavenly saint who wanted to destroy the Wanshan Great Thousand. Apart from him, the other heavenly saints most likely would not target him. They had even snuck into the heaven fiend realm. They had put in a lot of effort. No, it's not the heavenly saint, it should be reincarnation destiny, Dao Lord Xiantian said in a low voice. Dao Master Xiantian said in a solemn tone. Reincarnation destiny. Zhou Xuanji frowned, and the other souls were shocked. What do you mean? Aren't reincarnation and destiny just rules? It's just a vague concept. Do you really think they exist? Don't scare me. If every living being's fate is determined from the start, what's the point of cultivation? Fate is changeable. It's just the current situation that determines the outcome of each decision. Those people were evidently sent to scare him. After the other souls finished speaking, Dao Lord Shen gloomily sighed. He continued to speak. I once saw an existence who was banished by destiny. In the end, he was betrayed by all beings and was destroyed by the heavenly law. All beings banished by destiny will have all sorts of illusions appear before their fates arrive. They will warn them to be prepared to accept the judgment of destiny. His words caused the other souls to feel even more shocked. They had not revived yet and did not want to die with Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji asked in his heart, that shouldn't be the case. The heavenly law Jade acknowledged me and wanted me to become a heavenly saint. Could it be that because he refused to become a heavenly saint, the heavenly law was going to target him? Wasn't the heavenly law supreme and did not have its own rules? That's not the case. Every living creature has their own fate when they gain consciousness. You were chased away by fate from the very beginning. Originally, you could have become a heavenly saint with your talent, but you rejected it. Perhaps this is also part of fate. You seem to have thought it over carefully, but in reality, it is all part of fate. Dao Lord Xuantian's words caused Zhou Xuanji's frown to deepen. These words made one's hairs stand on end. Didn't that mean that no matter what Zhou Xuanji thought, the final decision he made would be the same as his own? He did not know his own fate and could not deliberately deviate from it. However, he did not believe that cultivators could not escape their own fate. What you said makes a lot of sense. Didn't this kid's fate change when he was young? From then on, his talent reached an unprecedented level. Could it be that he was expelled by fate from that time? Does Xian Daoya have that ability? That's right. This doesn't make sense either. Mother, your words have caused my soul to tremble. Don't you mean that it was fate that caused me to end up like this? The souls started to discuss worriedly, and Zhou Xuanji also started to think deeply. It looked like he had to leave the Heaven Fiend domain as soon as possible. He wanted to return to the Wanshan Great Thousand as soon as possible and make his preparations. After thinking about it, he slowly got up and went to summon the Shiji Six Immortals and Qiyu Boy. Emperor Sword Court. Amidst the mountains, Zhou Shaoxian and Xiao Jinghong were sparring. The speed of their swords was extremely fast as they fought back and forth. Their swords shone brilliantly. Looking in all directions, he could see many Emperor Sword Court disciples practicing their swords. Zhou Xuanji had only left for a year, which was very short to them. Most of the disciples were still immersed in the lingering sound of the Grand Tao. After sparring for a while, Zhou Shaoxian stopped. Xiao Jinghong sheathed his sword and said in amazement, Shaoxian, your talent is really amazing. You might even be able to catch up to our revered teacher. He was not joking. After sparring with Zhou Shaoxian, he could already feel the pressure. If this went on, it would not be long before Zhou Shaoxian surpassed him in the way of the sword. He inwardly sighed in amazement at how powerful his revered teacher's bloodline was. Zhou Shaoxian felt quite pleased with herself. She smiled and said, of course, I was born extraordinary. Xiao Jinghong shook his head and did not refute her. Following this, he turned to leave and prepared to find Meng Tianlang. He wanted to continue sparring with this rival of his and find some comfort in his heart. Zhou Shaoxian gripped her sword and began to think about what she had been lacking in. Because she had been influenced by what she had seen and heard since she was young, she truly loved swords. She had already created many sword techniques. In the northern wilderness region, they were peerless sword techniques that could dominate a region. Come here. A woman's voice came into Zhou Xiaoshuan's ears, and she instinctively looked up. She saw a woman standing on the clouds. She wore an exquisite long dress with all sorts of jewels embedded on it. Her long hair was coiled into a golden phoenix jade hairpin, revealing her peerlessly beautiful face. Seeing her, Zhou Shaoxian felt an indescribable sense of closeness and immediately flew up. The two women quickly flew above the sea of clouds, away from the ground. Zhou Shaoxian asked, "Who are you? Why are you looking for me? I've seen you before." The woman smiled as she looked at her and said, "I have something to tell you. Your father needs your help." Hearing this, Zhou Shaoxian frowned. why would her father need her help? The difference in their cultivations was like the difference between the heavens and the earth. She instinctively became wary and asked in a low voice, "Just who are you and what do you want?" The woman smiled and said, "Don't be nervous. If I wanted to harm you, I wouldn't have come to you so openly. Let me tell you about your father's past." Zhou Shaoxian looked quite confused and decided to listen to what she had to say. North of the True Spirit City, Zhou Xuanji, the Shiji Six Immortals, and Qiyu Boy walked towards the True Spirit Palace. He took out an concealing grass with his right hand and said, "Wait for me here." After that, he consumed the concealing grass and disappeared on the spot. Qiyu Boy looked at the Shiji Six Immortals with wide eyes and asked, "What grass is that?" The Shiji Six Immortals shook their heads. If they could completely see through Zhou Xuanji, would they still follow him? Senior is so unfathomable. On the other side, Zhou Xuanji quickly came to the dungeon where Qiu Hu was. In front of the dungeon, the 5 ancestors were cultivating. They opened their eyes at the same time. Who? Someone is contacting Qiu Hu in secret. Show yourself. Get out. Their thunderous voices reverberated throughout the dungeon. Qiu Hu, who was in the dungeon, looked up and his expression changed drastically. Following his gaze, he saw Zhou Xuanji standing in front of the 5 ancestors. Zhou Xuanji held a sword of light flickering with lightning in his right hand. It was the Thunderclap sword. He had already activated the 9 soul fusion technique. Looking at Qiu Hu, he said, "It's time to bring you back." Qiu Hu gritted his teeth and said, "Why are you doing this?" The 5 ancestors got up as well. A terrifying aura exploded out, shaking the dungeon. Even the True Spirit Palace's disciples outside could sense it. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "You stupid tiger, you dare to look down on me." The 5 ancestors looked grave. They could sense that Zhou Xuanji was very powerful. Especially that sword, which made their hairs stand on end. The middle-aged man in the lead raised his right palm and slammed out. A golden Dao character flew out from his palm and quickly expanded. It was 30 meters wide and quickly smashed towards Zhou Xuanji. Chapter 586. Facing the powerful heaven-sealing Dao seal, Zhou Xuanji stabbed the ground in front of him. Clang! Tens of thousands of thunderbolts exploded, and countless bolts of lightning intertwined with the golden characters like pythons, tearing the heaven-sealing seal apart with an extremely domineering power. The entire dungeon shook violently. Dust flew everywhere, and gravel slid down. The 5 ancestors' expressions greatly fell and they looked at Zhou Xuanji in disbelief. The heaven-sealing Dao seal had been easily broken. Qiu Hu's eyes widened in disbelief. Zhou Xuanji said coldly, "I'll give you one last chance. Release him, or die." The murderous aura caused the temperature in the dungeon to plummet. The True Spirit 5 ancestors were furious. How could they let go just like that? They immediately split up, each holding an enchanted artifact and charging toward Zhou Xuanji from different directions like lightning. A violent gale blew toward Zhou Xuanji, and the flames sped along the ground. The golden arrows pierced through the sea of flames and shot toward Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji's black hair danced wildly in the wind. He tilted his body slightly and drew his sword. Sky-dominating divine sword soul. Bang! The dungeon exploded. Lightning flashed, turning the darkness into day. Zhou Xuanji passed through the prison door with a single step and came before Qiu Hu. He picked him up and left. When Qiu Hu opened his eyes again, he found himself on a grassy plain. Zhou Xuanji passed the Wonder Blood Spirit pill to him and said, "This pill was given to me by an old friend. It can help you recover from your injuries in a few breaths." Hearing this, Qiu Hu immediately put the Wonder Blood Spirit pill into his mouth. This pill was given to Zhou Xuanji by Great Emperor Wuang during the war between the two worlds. At this time, 5 figures with terrifying auras descended, causing green waves to appear on the grassland, and the forest in the distance shook violently. Zhou Xuanji sighed and said, seems like you really want to die." These words almost caused the 5 true spirit ancestors to explode. More and more experts from the True Spirit Palace gathered. The previous explosion was so earth-shattering that everyone in the True Spirit City could hear it. Shiji 6 Immortals and Chiyu Boy quickly came behind Zhou Xuanji and faced the True Spirit Palace together. Zhou Xuanji raised the thunderclap sword, which flashed with lightning. His face looked incredibly grave and stern under the light. He was like a god of death. "This is the thunderclap sword. Prepare to die." Zhou Xuanji's voice sounded throughout the heavens and earth, and the rumbling of heavenly thunder suddenly became louder. He activated the terrifying power of the thunderclap sword. Rumble, thunderclouds gathered and the sky changed color. The 5 ancestors quickly spread out, surrounding Zhou Xuanji and the others, and they immediately got into a formation. A pentagonal golden pillar of light rose up, trapping Zhou Xuanji and the others within. Xiao Hu, who had just recovered from his injuries, gritted his teeth and said, "They want to use the heaven-sealing Dao seal again. Can you crack it?" Zhou Xuanji saved him, and this gave him a glimmer of hope. "This kid has become stronger again." Zhou Xuanji did not reply but stabbed toward the sky. A beam of light followed the thunderclap sword and soared into the sky, breaking through the rolling thunder clouds. In the blink of an eye, countless bolts of lightning rained down from the heavens, bombarding everything within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Boom! 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 Mountains were smashed into smithereens. The grasslands and forests were scorched black and razed to the ground. Countless disciples of the True Spirit Palace were killed in both body and soul, and miserable screams could be heard continuously. The expressions of the 5 true spirit ancestors changed drastically and they all tried to dodge the lightning. However, the lightning was too dense and one of them was instantly turned into ashes. In less than a breath's time, the 5 ancestors had been completely annihilated. One of the ancestors wanted to escape underground, but he could not dodge the terrifying lightning. In the eyes of Xiao Hu, the Shiji 6 Immortals, and Chiyu Boy, they felt heavenly might descend, and everything around them turned into nothingness. They were dumbfounded and felt their scalps go numb. What kind of power was this? Even Chiyu Boy, who had seen the might of the thunderclap sword on the Heaven Fiend Star Island, could not help but feel a chill run down his spine. It was too terrifying. Facing such power, who would not be afraid? Zhou Xuanji slashed out with his sword and slashed out a crack, bringing everyone into the void. The spatial crack also disappeared. They quickly escaped. In the darkness, they followed the thunderclap sword's lightning. Chiyu Boy sighed in amazement, so domineering. He was completely convinced by Zhou Xuanji. He was even more powerful than his master. Xiao Hu was incredibly excited and asked, "Master, how did you suddenly become so powerful?" Zhou Xuanji gave a mysterious smile and said, "I've always been this powerful." In that battle, he had also used world internalization, and the magic energy in his body almost caused his body to explode. He had to find a place to hide and prepare to break through. Inside the Heavenly Saint Palace, Buddha Yang Ling frowned and looked at the black shadow in front of him. "Really?" he asked. The black shadow was burning like a raging flame. Its body twisted, and its face could not be seen clearly. "Yes," it replied with a hoarse voice, "it's all thanks to your heavenly law Jade that his destiny was accelerated." Buddha Yang Ling fell into deep thought. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to be someone banished by destiny. He could not help but think of the last person who had such a destiny. No wonder he wanted to become an overlord saint. It's all part of heaven's will. Buddha Yang Ling sighed. His heart became heavy. So what if he was a heavenly saint? He could not defeat heaven's will. He looked at the black shadow and asked, "What do you need me to do?" The black shadow said, "Warn old ancestor Hongshe not to help Zhou Xuanji anymore, or else his position as a saint will be in danger." Buddha Yang Ling frowned and asked further, "Why don't you go yourself?" Old ancestor Hongshe had a fiery temper, and he did not want to be scolded. "This is to accumulate merit for you." The black shadow disappeared from the palace. Buddha Yangling heard him, and his face turned extremely unsightly. In the void, Zhou Xuanji broke through to connecting heaven level 2, and his cultivation was still growing. Qiu Hu, Shiji 6 immortals, Qiu Boy, demon god Tianwu, and demon god Jihuang were waiting around him. They were cultivating too. The void was silent. In the end, Zhou Xuanji did not break through to all 3 levels of connecting heaven, but he was very close to it. After the breakthrough, they continued on their journey toward Wanshan Great Thousand. Soon, they came out from the dark void and came to the vast starry sky. Qiu Hu pointed in a direction and said, "Wanshan Great Thousand is over there." The group immediately flew toward that direction. For some reason, Zhou Xuanji felt uneasy. He felt that something big was about to happen. He turned to Qiu Hu and asked, "Do you know what being banished by destiny means?" Qiu Hu was a little stunned. He replied with a frown, "A long time ago, an incredibly powerful being was banished by destiny. He was the only overlord saint since ancient times. All the heavenly saints combined could not defeat him. In the end, driven by destiny, he was dealt with by the fate of all beings and was destroyed by the heavenly law." Zhou Xuanji was stunned and asked, "What do you mean? Driven by destiny? Could it be that destiny could control all beings?" Qiu Hu said hesitantly, "I don't know the specifics. I don't remember that catastrophe clearly. It might be the doing of the heavenly law." Memory wiping. Zhou Xuanji immediately thought of this. After the war between 2 worlds, the heavenly saints would also wipe the memories of the victors. Could it be from the heavenly law? Chapter 587. Qiu Hu's words sent Zhou Xuanji into countless fantasies. He even imagined the scene of all beings being manipulated by fate to deal with him together. Just thinking about it sent shivers down his spine. He was not afraid of becoming enemies with all living beings, but he was afraid that the people around him would also be controlled. Zhou Xuanji fell into silence and began to think of a solution. The Shiji 6 immortals and Qiu Boy were very curious about what Qiu Hu had said and started to ask. They continued on their way towards Wanshan Great Thousand. After a long while, a powerful aura came from ahead, which brought Zhou Xuanji's thoughts back to reality. He narrowed his eyes and muttered, "Here it comes again." He thought that it was the phantom of fate from before that had come to advise him to accept his fate. But that was not the case. It was Gu Tianxia. He also noticed Zhou Xuanji and the others and instinctively wanted to avoid them. However, his gaze suddenly fell on Zhou Xuanji, and his expression changed as he flew towards Zhou Xuanji. "Stop!" Qiu Boy shouted. His voice was overbearing and he did not put Gu Tianxia in his eyes at all. Zhou Xuanji took a closer look and felt that this person was very familiar. Wait a minute. Wasn't this Gu Tianxia? Not only did he grow a pair of eyes, but he also became younger. He said, "It's okay, I know him." He was shocked when he found out that Gu Tianxia had been resurrected and even suppressed the 3 prodigies of the Abyss Pearl mainland. It seemed like this guy was really talented. He looked carefully and found that this guy's cultivation had already reached the 7th level of the universe heaven realm. TSK, he broke through really quickly. Gu Tianxia flew up to Zhou Xuanji and smiled, "Long time no see." He sized up Zhou Xuanji with a strange look in his eyes. He actually couldn't see through this kid's cultivation. Incredible. No wonder the old beggar praised him so much. "Where are you going?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He did not know that Gu Tianxia had already become his junior brother. Gu Tianxia replied, "I'm looking for a fortuitous encounter and preparing to head into the depths of the void." "You want to return to Wanshan Great Thousand? I advise you to be careful. Heavenly Lord Xiantai, who wanted to destroy the Wanshan Great Thousand, has already come out of seclusion. It won't be long before he attacks the Wanshan Great Thousand again." Heavenly Master Xiantai. Zhou Xuanji suddenly felt that something was off. Why did Emperor Xiantai suddenly come out of seclusion at this critical juncture? Could it be that he was being manipulated by fate and was prepared to deal with him? Gu Tianxia could tell that Ning Ke was worried. He said meaningfully, "Sometimes, you can give up some things. No matter how strong a cultivator is, he can't be completely safe." After that, Gu Tianxia flew past Zhou Xuanji and quickly disappeared into the starry sky. Zhou Xuanji understood what he meant but did not take it to heart. The group continued forward. "Who is that kid? I feel that there's an extremely terrifying power hidden within his body." Xiao Hu asked out of curiosity, and the Shiji 6 immortals also looked at Zhou Xuanji in confusion. Zhou Xuanji replied calmly, "Gu Tianxia, an extremely talented genius." Everyone was shocked. For Zhou Xuanji to call him extremely talented, he was definitely not simple. After returning to the Wanshan Great Thousand, Zhou Xuanji and the others quickly went to where Emperor Sword Court was. Emperor Sword Court was still safe and sound. Zhou Xuanji led out Jiang Shui and Daoya Old Man, and he gathered the higher-ups of Emperor Sword Court together. He first introduced the Shiji 6 immortals and Qiyu Boy. Upon learning that the Shiji 6 immortals were all strong practitioners in the reaching heaven state, the crowd was astonished. Following this, Zhou Xuanji began to give out heaven fiend pills. Apart from Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Congjian, and the other 20 million disciples each received a heaven fiend pill. Everyone curiously asked where he was going. Zhou Xuanji did not hide anything and told them about what had happened during this period of time. Along the way, he would have the Shiji 6 immortals, Qiyu Boy, and Xiao Hu interject. Hearing this, everyone continuously gasped. They had never thought that while they had been peacefully training, Zhou Xuanji had experienced so many things. Zhou Xuanji also told them about how he had been banished by destiny, causing everyone to fall silent. Even Xiao Hu, the Shiji 6 immortals, and Qiyu Boy looked at him in shock. No wonder he had asked about this before. How could it be like this? Could it be that I did not change destiny well back then? Daoya Old Man's expression was unsightly as he said with gritted teeth. Jiang Shui held Zhou Xuanji's hand, her eyes filled with worry, but she did not say anything. Beixiao Wangjian scratched his head and asked, "Is there no other way to escape this destiny?" Under the heavenly law, most creatures believed in destiny. Zhou Xuanji shook his head, he had not thought of any other way. "In other words, we might be controlled by destiny to deal with you?" Huang Lianxin asked carefully. As soon as she said that, everyone's expressions changed. They could not help but shudder at the thought of that possibility. The most horrifying thing was that after this, they might not remember this and might even forget about Zhou Xuanji. If not for Zhou Xuanji, how could they have come this far? Hearing this, Jiang Shui became even more nervous. She suddenly remembered that Zhou Xuanji had told her how to never forget him. She did not dare to imagine what would happen if she forgot Zhou Xuanji. There's no need to be too nervous. According to the Lord, there's still some time before the punishment of destiny. The stronger he is, the closer he will be to being banished by destiny. We still have time to think of a countermeasure. Xiao Hu said, comforting everyone. He thought of the old immortal and was about to ask him. Zhou Xuanji also spoke, telling everyone to calm down and continue to develop Emperor Sword Court. Everyone could only give up, but their hearts were shrouded in a layer of shadow. After the meeting was dismissed, Zhou Xuanji saw that Zhou Shaoxian had not left yet. The girl's head was lowered and looked depressed. No one knew what she was thinking about. He walked over, caressed her head, and asked with a smile, "What's wrong?" Zhou Shaoxian looked up with tearful eyes and said, "There was someone who came to find me before. She wanted me to tell you to be prepared to accept your fate. She wanted me to advise you to leave the area of the heavenly Tao and flee into the void. Only then would you be able to avoid the calamity." Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked curiously, "Who is she? Why are they looking for you?" Jiang Shui walked over and asked, "How long ago?" Daoya Old Man pinched his fingers and divined. Then, he coughed up blood. The Shiji 6 immortals were so shocked that they hurriedly helped him up. "I don't know who she is, just a few days ago." Zhou Shaoxian shook her head. She raised her right hand and a light mirror appeared in her palm. The woman's face was reflected in the mirror. Zhou Xuanji's expression changed into shock. Jiang Shui frowned and asked, "Do you know her?" For some reason, she felt that this woman looked very similar to Zhou Xuanji at first glance. It was as if they were made from the same mold. Could it be, she is my birth mother? Zhou Xuanji's expression was complicated. He suddenly felt that things were much deeper than he had imagined. Lady Zhao Xian didn't die? Or did his soul not reincarnate after his death? Xian, Daoya old man cried out in shock and ran over immediately. Looking at the light mirror in Zhou Xiaoxuan's palm, his body trembled in disbelief. Zhou Xiaoxian and Jiang Shui looked at each other in shock. Could it be that grandma isn't dead? Zhou Xiaoxian asked in surprise. This meant that this woman had no ill intentions and was really here to help. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 588. First, build a teleportation gate here, and put the other gate into the Lotus World. Zhou Xuanji instructed, and Shiji 6 immortals took action immediately. Although they did not understand the situation, they understood that Zhou Xuanji was in danger and could leave at any time. Building a portal would allow them to keep in touch. Soon, only Zhou Xuanji, Jiang Shui, Zhou Shaoxian, and Daoya old man were left on the mountain. Zhou Xuanji looked at Daoya old man, who was still in a daze, and sighed faintly. He then told Daoya old man about Xian Daoya. After he finished speaking, Daoya old man collapsed on the ground. His face was pale as though he had lost his soul. "I'm actually a clone," he said with a bitter smile. "I've been fighting against fate all my life. I didn't expect myself to be a chess piece too." A great sorrow took over his heart. It threw him into the abyss instantly. No one would feel good if they knew the truth. Zhou Shaoxian comforted him. "Grand teacher, don't think so much. At least you are still alive. Isn't that a good thing? You should not even exist." Now that Xian Daoya is so scared by father that he peed in his pants. After father kills him, you will be the original one. Daoya old man's eyes glowed. That made sense. The more it was so, the stronger he had to be. Now that Zhou Xuanji was in a desperate situation, he could not be a burden. He took a deep breath and stood up slowly. "It seems like your fate is related to Xian Daoya. As long as we capture him, there will be a way to break your fate," he said. As for leaving the heavenly law's range, it was extremely dangerous. It was akin to seeking death. Even the heavenly saints did not dare to leave recklessly. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "After the portal is built, I will look for a senior. He might have a way to break it." He asked Jiang Shui and Zhou Shaoxian to stay behind and take care of Daoya old man. After that, he found Xiao Hu and asked about Xian Daoya's whereabouts. Xiao Hu did not know either, but he was willing to bring Zhou Xuanji to the great Emperor Dao court. He knew where the leader of the great Emperor Dao court was. Previously, Zhou Xuanji was not powerful enough, so he did not provoke him. But now, he had the 9 extreme legendary sword in his hand. 7 days later, Shiji 6 immortals built the portal. At the same time, they also built another portal in the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus. At this point, the Divine Cliff, Emperor Sword Court, and Skyfall were all connected to the 24-rank Deep Black Lotus. Zhou Xuanji and Xiao Hu first went to find the great Emperor Dao court. According to Xiao Hu, the great Emperor Dao court was closer to them than the old deity. They advanced at full speed and arrived at the ocean where the great Emperor Dao court was in less than half a day. Xiao Hu frowned and said, "They have already left." Zhou Xuanji used his divine sense to scan the ocean below and found that it was unfathomably deep. There was not a single creature within. Although the entire ocean was turbulent, it was lifeless. How sly. I wonder where those fellows ran off to. He understood the great Emperor Dao court very well. This group of fellows must have some ulterior motive for leaving together. After all, the existences of the great Emperor Dao court were all extremely prideful. If there was nothing special, they were not even afraid of exposing their whereabouts. No matter how many enemies came, they had a way to kill them. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "Then let's go back." The great Emperor Dao court's departure was most likely not targeted at him. It was most likely because of Heavenly Lord Xiantai. Xiao Hu nodded, and the two of them turned and left. Not long after they left, the ocean began to sink at a visible rate. Strands of steam rose into the air. Looking down from above, a gigantic black face gradually appeared in the boundless ocean. That black face looked so hideous and horrifying. 2 days later, Zhou Xuanji and Xiao Hu came to the temple. Xiao Hu cupped his fist and said, "Senior, we have something to ask." Zhou Xuanji bowed and waited for the old immortal's reply. The temple's gate opened suddenly, and the old immortal and the old beggar walked out side by side. Seeing the old beggar, Zhou Xuanji asked with squinted eyes, "Why are you here?" He sounded a little resentful. He almost thought that the old beggar had forgotten about this disciple of his. The old beggar was a little embarrassed. He scratched his head and laughed, to ask this guy for help. Zhou Xuanji asked, "Is it for Su Qing?" The old beggar nodded and did not continue. The old immortal looked at Zhou Xuanji with a solemn expression and sighed, "I did not expect you to be someone banished by destiny. This is not good. Even the Overlord Saint cannot defeat the heavenly might and destiny. This situation is almost certain death for you." Xiao Hu said with a frown, "Didn't you say that I can escape from the heavenly law's range?" The old immortal shook his head and replied, "He even offended someone who surpassed the heavenly saints. He's waiting for him at the boundary of the heavenly law." Xiao Hu fell silent and looked at Zhou Xuanji with a strange gaze. He really wanted to ask, "How did you offend so many enemies?" Zhou Xuanji fell into silence as well. He was not too flustered. He had experienced such a situation of certain death before. But this time, the situation was bigger. Hey. Think about it carefully. Since you were born, who schemed against you? Other than Xian Daoya, that guy is not worth mentioning. He's not powerful enough to change destiny, the old beggar said. He sounded carefree, but deep in his eyes, there was concern. Zhou Xuanji muttered, "Other than my destiny being changed since I was young, I have encountered countless enemies." He suddenly thought of something. His transmigration identity. Ever since he was born, he had memories of his previous life. Most importantly, he had never heard of Earth in the Great Thousand World. Could it be that Earth did not come from the heavenly law? The more he thought about it, the more shocked he became. There are only two paths before you. Either you stop cultivating, or you work hard to become more powerful and fight against destiny, the old immortal said as he stroked his long beard. The old immortal said as he stroked his long beard and stared at Zhou Xuanji. He looked unprecedentedly serious. The old beggar threw him a stare and cursed, "Fight against destiny? You can think of that. He will be consigned to eternal damnation." The old immortal asked back, "Then what do you have in mind?" The old beggar fell silent. He really could not think of a way. He even came to ask how to save Su Qing. At this moment, he felt sorrow welling up in his heart. In the end, he could not protect all of his disciples. Mo Jiuqing, Su Qing, and Zhou Xuanji were the same. "Didn't you tell me to find you after I reached Universe Heaven Level 18? Now, I'm connecting Heaven Level 2, Zhou Xuanji asked. Zhou Xuanji asked. Between waiting for death and fighting with his life on the line, he did not hesitate. The old immortal nodded and said, "Summon all of your demon god bodies. I will help you refine your body and help you step onto the path of pursuing the Overlord Saint." Overlord Saint. The old beggar opened his eyes wide. He suddenly thought of the Overlord Saint in the past. That guy's ending was extremely pitiful. But when he was about to speak, he could not. Looking at Zhou Xuanji's calm and determined expression, he was a little dazed. "Are you really ready?" he asked with a complicated tone. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 589. Zhou Xuanji looked at the old beggar and shrugged as he said, I've been hearing this so much lately that my ears have grown calluses. Whether I'm prepared or not, I'll have to face it. I'm always prepared for any battle. The old beggar was moved by his eyes and said with a smile, That's right. As my disciple, you can't be a coward. Zhou Xuanji smiled but did not reply. Come on, you just kept pouring cold water on me. Xiao Hu could not help but complain, his tone filled with disdain. He couldn't stand the sight of the old beggar. In his eyes, the old immortal was more like Zhou Xuanji's teacher. At that moment, Zhou Xuanji took out demon god Tianwu, demon god Nanming, demon ancestor, and demon god Jihuang. The bodies of the 4 demon gods exuded a domineering aura. Their faces were ferocious and they exuded a boundless baleful aura. The old beggar's expression changed. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to have already obtained 4 demon god clones. Looks like you have a lot of secrets on you. To be able to refine 4 demon gods into doppelgangers, such a method is very rare. The old immortal said intently, while the old beggar was also sizing up Zhou Xuanji. Could it be that this kid had another master? This was the first time Xiao Hu had seen him take out 4 demon god bodies at once. The old immortal waved his right hand and a huge black cauldron appeared in front of him, causing Xiao Hu and the old beggar to retreat in shock. Bring your avatar into the cauldron. It will be very painful. Of course, I believe you can endure it. The old immortal chuckled. His serious expression disappeared and he became kind again. Zhou Xuanji nodded and brought the 4 demon god clones into the cauldron. Xiao Hu sat down on the ground. The old beggar looked at the old deity and said, We have already agreed on what happened before. Don't forget. With that, he turned around and prepared to leave. The old immortal stopped him and asked, You don't care about Zhou Xuanji? He's also your disciple, and he's told me a lot about the interactions between the two of you. I can tell that he respects you a lot. Hearing this, the old beggar trembled and his body stiffened. He sighed and said, I don't have a clone, so I'm really powerless. Moreover, you're here. You're equivalent to his master. With that, he left without hesitation. He had so many disciples, but during critical moments, he could only take care of one. Looking at him leave, Xiao Hu curled his lips and harumphed, Didn't he just make master your disciple? He could not understand why the old beggar would abandon Zhou Xuanji. Could there be other disciples more important than Zhou Xuanji? The old immortal shook his head and smiled. He is indeed a good master. He is more suitable than me. The old beggar could communicate with his disciple with his true feelings, but he couldn't. In his eyes, everyone was equal. Including Zhou Xuanji. He only felt that Zhou Xuanji had the potential to go to the Kunlun origin court. Xiao Hu glanced at the old immortal and muttered, You don't mean it. Why did the old immortal not treat him as well as Zhou Xuanji? Zhou Xuanji and the 4 demon gods came to a place with many volcanoes. Thunderclouds covered the sky and torrential rain poured down. However, it was unable to extinguish the raging flames in the surroundings. The rain fell into the streams of lava and gave rise to bursts of charred smoke. Zhou Xuanji and the demon gods' bodies were hit by the rain, and he muttered, This is the world within the cauldron? He subconsciously looked at the intersecting magma rivers beside him. Could it be that he was going to use them to temper his body? At this moment, his expression changed. The rain became scalding hot. Even his powerful body turned red from the impact. If it were an ordinary person, he would have been melted instantly. He did not use his celestial energy to protect his body but accepted the rain calmly. Since it was body tempering, how could he resist? The 4 demon gods' bodies did not move and accepted the rain quietly. Zhou Xuanji, fighting against destiny and the heavenly law is a path of no return for you. You will suffer unimaginable pain, and you might even face eternal loneliness. Remember, the more pain you can endure, the more power you will gain. The old immortal's voice resounded across the heavens and earth. It was majestic and indifferent, like the might of the heavens. Zhou Xuanji did not reply but engraved the old immortal's words in his heart. His black hair was drenched by the scalding rain. He sat down with his legs crossed and channeled the world Buddha art. The old immortal began to chant the great Tao's voice. The rain grew hotter. In a short while, Zhou Xuanji was covered in blood, and the 4 demon gods' bodies began to tear. Even with the great Tao's voice by his ears, Zhou Xuanji was still tortured by the extreme pain. He gritted his teeth and persevered. Outside the black cauldron, the old immortal sat on the door sill and sighed faintly. He had once planned a perfect path for Zhou Xuanji's development. It was a pity that he did not divine Zhou Xuanji's fate. "Senior, what are the chances of him defeating destiny?" Qiu Hu asked from the side. The old immortal was silent for a while before replying, "If it were anyone else, there would be no chance. But if it's him, the chances are minuscule." Qiu Hu was stunned and asked in astonishment, "Why?" Minuscule sounded hopeless, but it represented a glimmer of hope. "Because I believe in him." The old immortal smiled as he reminisced. He began to recall the time he spent with Zhou Xuanji. In the vast starry sky, old ancestor Hongshe and heavenly lord Xiantai stood opposite each other. Their faces were cold. "The enemy is just outside, and you still want to fight among yourselves?" Old ancestor Hongshe asked with a deep voice. His tone was filled with rage. Heavenly Lord Xiantai replied indifferently, "I'm not satisfied until I destroy Wanshan Great Thousand. If you want to stop me, then I will remove your heavenly saint title. With one less heavenly saint, we will be stronger." Just when he finished speaking, a black hole appeared behind him, and a black silhouette stepped out slowly. That person looked exactly like Heavenly Lord Xiantai, but his body was pitch black like a shadow. Old ancestor Hongshe's expression changed drastically. "You are using that power," he cried out in shock. "Are you crazy?" Heavenly Lord Xiantai laughed maniacally. "Hongshe, can't you see it clearly? The heavenly law is about to be destroyed. 9 is the limit. Destiny has begun interfering, and everything will return to the cycle of reincarnation. The battle between the heavenly saints is our only chance of survival." After that, the entire starry sky turned into extreme darkness. Countless stars disappeared. Heavenly Venerable Xiantai split into countless clones that surrounded old ancestor Hongshe. The black silhouette grew taller quickly and looked down at old ancestor Hongshe. Old ancestor Hongshe took a deep breath. A gigantic red lion head formed above his head and roared furiously in the dark void. A golden beam of light shot out from the darkness at an extremely fast speed. Old ancestor Hongshe glanced over and was pleasantly surprised. The next second, his expression changed suddenly. He quickly dodged the golden beam's attack. "Yang Ling, what are you trying to do?" Old ancestor Hongshe roared furiously. His voice was trembling. Buddha Yang Ling came over on his lotus throne, radiating with boundless radiance. He stared at old ancestor Hongshe expressionlessly and said, "Hongshe, you are too willful and reckless. You will die sooner or later. I am here to take your soul and reincarnate you in the next cycle." Old ancestor Hongshe almost exploded in anger. This guy dared to betray him. Chapter 590. In the face of Patriarch Hongshe's anger, Buddha Yang Ling shook his head. He quickly flew up. In the blink of an eye, he reached the same height as the black shadow. He looked down at old ancestor Hongshe and said, "Hongshe, you are the heavenly saint who is the least like a heavenly saint. You do not meet the standards of the heavenly Tao's rules. I have advised you many times to not interfere with the matters of the masses, but you did not listen. Back then, nurturing saint contenders went against the heavenly Tao. Today, the celestial and I will join hands to exterminate you. If there is a next life, don't try to prove your Tao. You are only fit to be immortal." After saying that, he raised his right hand and grabbed at ancestor Hongshe. Ancestor Hongshe was infuriated. He took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. If that was the case, then let's go all out and have a great battle. In the world of the Black Cauldron, Zhou Xuanji and the demon gods were still being battered by the scorching rain. At a glance, they looked like skeletons covered in flesh and blood, looking incredibly eerie. The old immortal's voice of the great Tao continued. Zhou Xuanji was already used to the pain. It could even be said that he was numb to it. His mind fell into an unprecedented state of tranquility. At this moment, a strong gust of wind suddenly came. Wind blades that were visible to the naked eye attacked his body, scraping away his flesh and causing him to frown slightly. Boundless spiritual energy gathered around him, along with all sorts of fragrant smells. After entering his body, his pain lessened slightly, and his flesh began to heal at a visible rate. He, who was originally numb, felt the pain again. What is worse than death? Right now, he was. But he still persisted. He wasn't afraid of death, but he didn't want to die like this. What about the heavenly Tao? What about fate? Since they dared to let him die, then he would pierce through everything. He communicated with the sword spirit in his mind. Sword spirit, is this situation really unsolvable for me? The supreme legendary sword system was said to be formed by serendipity from the world's beginning. Perhaps it was because of it that Zhou Xuanji was banished by destiny. Sword Master, are you afraid? The sword spirit asked. His tone was as emotionless as ever. Zhou Xuanji replied, I'm not afraid, but everything around me tells me that I will die for sure. I need confirmation. Although the old immortal was very calm, he could clearly tell that the old immortal also felt that he had a slim chance of survival. As for the old beggar, he might have already given up on him. He didn't blame the old beggar because he hadn't repaid him yet. For the old beggar, he also had the most important person. If it were Zhou Xuanji, if he could only choose one person to protect, he would choose Jiang Shui without hesitation. In the mortal world, no matter how high one's cultivation was, the word love was engraved in one's bones and heart. You are the Sword Emperor. No matter what danger you face, you will destroy it with one sword. If one sword is not enough, you will destroy it with 10,000 swords. If 10,000 swords are still not enough, you will use 1,000,000 swords. This is your original belief. Have you forgotten? The sword spirit replied. Its words made Zhou Xuanji open his eyes suddenly. The wind blade pierced towards his eyes. His purple eyes shone with a strange light. The wind blades melted as soon as they got close to his eyes. That's right. I don't need to care about what others think. Zhou Xuanji mumbled to himself. His tone became extremely determined. So what if it was fate? In the blink of an eye. 5 years passed. The Wanshan Great Thousand had already survived the apocalypse. All living beings were reproducing and the various sects were also developing at their own pace. On this day, golden lotuses and countless red hairs suddenly rained down from the sky, covering the entire Wanshan Great Thousand. It was the same for all the mortal realms connected to Wanshan Great Thousand. The golden lotuses descended, and Hongshi fell. Out of the 8 heavenly law saints, another one was eliminated. In the forest, Si Mengyan and Xian Daoya looked up. What's going on? Another heavenly saint has fallen? Xian Daoya asked in astonishment. He had experienced the fall of a heavenly saint before, and it was the same vision. Si Mengyan's expression changed slightly, and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He immediately understood who had fallen. Old ancestor Hongshi. How can it be? He's so powerful. How can he fall? Si Mengyan's chest heaved up and down. His eyes turned red instantly as though they were filled with blood. Old ancestor Hongshi would always protect the geniuses that he valued. It was the same for him and Zhou Xuanji. Seeing his reaction, Xian Daoya immediately understood. Old ancestor Hongshi has fallen. Could it be? Xian Daoya immediately thought of many possibilities, and his expression changed drastically. The heavenly saints were fighting among themselves. Now, there were only 7 heavenly saints left. At this moment, footsteps came from behind them. Xian Daoya turned around and cried out in shock with his eyes wide open, "It's you." The person who came was a man wearing a black robe and a hood. He had a handsome face and strands of white hair. His eyes were deep, and there were 2 intersecting crescent moons between his brows. "Xian Daoya, long time no see," he said with a smile. He turned to look at Si Mengyan and said with a smile, "Hey, do you want to take revenge for old ancestor Hongshe? Do you want to become the next heavenly saint?" Xian Daoya's expression changed. He was a little nervous. Si Mengyan turned to look at the black-robed man and asked, "Who are you?" He instinctively scanned the other party with his divine sense but realized that he could not see through him. "My surname is Ren. As for my name, I have many. I like people to call me Ren Niming," the black-robed man said with a smile. His eyes sparkled, and he gave off a shrewd feeling. In the Black Cauldron's world, a stream of violet qi descended from the sky and entered Zhou Xuanji's body. He opened his eyes and said in shock, "This is heavenly law violet qi. Why would another stream of heavenly law violet qi descend? This is old ancestor Hongshe's saint position. He gifted this heavenly law violet qi to you to give you a chance of survival." The old immortal's voice came. His tone was incredibly calm. "What about him?" Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown. Sage Daojing had only handed over the heavenly law violet qi after leaving Wanshan Great Thousand. Could it be that old ancestor Hongshe was going to follow in Sage Daojing's footsteps? "He's already fallen." Zhou Xuanji's pupils contracted, as if he had heard wrongly. Fallen? How could it be? Even if he encountered Heavenly Lord Xiantai, they should be evenly matched. Between heavenly saints, it was impossible for them to kill each other in a one-on-one battle. Unless, old ancestor Hongshe was attacked by many heavenly saints. "I don't know why he fell, but a catastrophe is coming, and even the heavenly saints have fallen. It seems that the danger you are facing is beyond your imagination," the old immortal continued. In other words, Zhou Xuanji would have to face all of the heavenly saints. Zhou Xuanji frowned even more. He did not have a good impression of old ancestor Hongshe, but this guy gave him the heavenly law violet qi before he fell, which made him feel bad. He took a deep breath and asked, "Is my body powerful enough?" 5 years passed. His body was constantly being reconstructed. The boiling rain, wind blades, magma, and billions of lightning bolts transformed his body. He did not know how powerful he was, but he could feel that he was reborn. "Wait a little longer. You can contact your people and prepare to escape," the old immortal replied. These words made Zhou Xuanji's expression change slightly. He immediately closed his eyes and focused on the world in the lotus. Chapter 591. Emperor Sword Court and the Divine Cliff moved very quickly. Especially after hearing that the Heavenly Saint wanted to destroy the Wanshan Great Thousand, they were all afraid that they would fall behind. In the Black Cauldron's world, Zhou Xuanji used his consciousness to communicate with the world in the lotus while enduring the pain of body tempering. He could look down at the entire world in the lotus. The tens of millions of people had already begun to disperse and find their own places to cultivate. He had planted many natural treasures in the world in the lotus, and the spiritual qi was abundant. It was not inferior to the Wanshan Great Thousand. After confirming that the situation was stable, Zhou Xuanji continued to focus on tempering his body. While he was suffering, the Wanshan Great Thousand faced a catastrophe. He couldn't care less and didn't want to think about it anymore. Heavenly Venerable Xiantai floated above the sea of clouds as countless meteorites flew past him, smashing towards Wanshan Great Thousand. His face was expressionless and his eyes were indifferent. Behind him stood a black shadow whose facial features and figure were exactly the same as his. The black shadow asked, "What? Can't bear it?" Heavenly Lord Xiantai did not reply, but his eyes betrayed him. The enmity between him and Venerable Daojing should really be paid by the Wanshan Great Thousand? For some unknown reason, after old ancestor Hongshu's death, his heart began to soften, and he was no longer as ruthless as before. Sage Daojing and old ancestor Hongshu's heavenly law violet qi is on that person called Zhou Xuanji. Spread this news and make Wanshan Great Thousand fight among themselves. We can even spread this news to other Great Thousand worlds and make other heavenly saints and saint contenders fight over it. The Black Shadow continued. Hearing this, Heavenly Lord Xiantai nodded slightly. He did not hate Zhou Xuanji too much, but this would save Wanshan Great Thousand from being exterminated. Everyone, listen up. Zhou Xuanji has 2 heavenly law violet qi. If you obtain one, you can become a saint. Heavenly Lord Xuantia's voice resounded throughout the Wanshan Great Thousand. At the same time, the descending meteorites disappeared. As long as I become a saint, I can stand above all living beings and no longer be controlled by the catastrophe. His voice was very calm, causing the hearts of all living beings in the calamity to tremble. Sainthood. The next moment, the entire Wanshan Great Thousand was in an uproar. The Wanshan Great Thousand had been through so many hardships recently, and all the living beings were holding their breaths. They wanted to rise. They were no longer willing to wait for death and despair. Now, the Wanshan Great Thousand was in a frenzy to find Zhou Xuanji. Emperor Sword Court and Divine Cliff were the first to be targeted. Very soon, everyone discovered that Emperor Sword Court and the Divine Cliff had disappeared. Where did Emperor Sword Court go? Zhou Xuanji must have escaped. Damn it. He even said that he was going to use his sword to save the world. Utter bullshit. They must have left Wanshan Great Thousand. What do I do? My chance to become a sage is gone. For a time, the Center God province became the target of public criticism. Zhou Xuanji did not know about this, and even if he knew, he would not care. In front of the temple, Heavenly Lord Xuantia's sudden appearance startled Xiao Hu so much that he stood up. The old immortal was still sitting on the doorsill, calm and collected. He was not at all moved by Heavenly Lord Xuantia's arrival. You want to protect him? Heavenly Lord Xiantai asked expressionlessly. It was obvious that he knew the old immortal. The old immortal replied calmly, No, I'm just fulfilling my promise to him. He will come out soon. Heavenly Lord Xiantai narrowed his eyes and said, What exactly are you planning? The old immortal and the old beggar were still seniors to these heavenly saints. Even if he hadn't become a sage, Heavenly Lord Xiantai wouldn't have dared to act recklessly. It's not that I'm planning anything, but you are being schemed against. The old immortal smiled faintly. His words were like a knife that pierced Heavenly Lord Xuantia's heart. Schemed. Heavenly Lord Xuantia's expression changed drastically. When old ancestor Hongshu died, he sensed that something was amiss. He felt that everything was too strange. But there was a reason for it. It was because Sage Daojing provoked him that he was enraged. But why was he so vengeful? He even took revenge on the people of Wanshan Great Thousand. This was the demeanor of a heavenly saint. He took a deep breath and cupped his fist. Please enlighten me. Xiao Hu swallowed his saliva. A heavenly saint bowed to the old immortal. Domineering. Too domineering. The old immortal shook his head and said, Actually, you know what's going on. Who else can control a heavenly saint? Boom, a bolt of lightning descended. But when it neared the temple, it was blocked by a formless energy and dissipated in the air. Heavenly Lord Xiantai took a deep breath and immediately understood what he meant. Thank you. Heavenly Lord Xiantai left after saying this. In the blink of an eye, he left Wanshan Great Thousand. He could already feel fear. In the Black Cauldron's world, Zhou Xuanji was still undergoing the tempering of his body. Analyzed that the sword owner has reached 356 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner obtained, Connecting Heaven, Sky Destroyer, Celestial Shaking, Hell God's Sword. The sword spirit's voice resounded in his mind. He did not open his eyes but continued to cultivate. In 5 years, he had obtained 12 legendary swords. The highest grade was connecting heaven, and the lowest was gold. Although they were not very helpful to his power, it was good to have a few more. Boom! He broke through to connecting heaven level 3. The tempering of his body did not help his cultivation much, but he was already close to breaking through. In 5 years, I will let you out. The next 5 years will be truly painful. The old immortal's voice sounded in his ears. He did not even open his eyes. Pain was nothing to him. As long as he could become more powerful. Boom! At this moment, the ground shook violently. A horrifying pressure descended from the sky, and he looked up in shock. He saw a fiery glow in the sky. Billowing flames billowed out, shaking everyone's heart. At a glance, there was no end to the sea of flames. This is... Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide. He thought of a possibility, and his scalp turned numb. Boom! The boundless sea of flames descended suddenly, as though the sky had collapsed. The heavens and the earth merged together, covering Zhou Xuanji and the demon gods. The cauldron turned into a sea of flames that burned everything. Outside the cauldron, Xiao Hu looked at the black cauldron with cold sweat on his forehead. Is he really okay? He asked with gritted teeth. The black cauldron was visibly burned red, and the surrounding space was distorted from the heat. The old immortal said calmly, "This is nirvana. If it were you, you would die, but not him." Xiao Hu did not feel humiliated but worried for Zhou Xuanji. Gradually, thunderclouds gathered in the sky above the Taoist temple and surged ceaselessly. It was as though the end of the world was coming. The old immortal looked up and laughed softly. Seems like someone can no longer sit still. Xiao Hu looked up as well. He could sense an extremely powerful aura levitating above the Wanshan Great Thousands 33 heavens. It was looking down at the world and observing the world. He frowned and asked, "What's his cultivation stage?" The old immortal replied, "Saint Contender. He's more powerful than you." Chapter 592. Above the 33rd heaven. A figure covered in raging flames stood proudly. His gaze was lowered as he looked left and right, as if he was searching for something. His face was also covered in flames. His crimson armor gave off a violent aura, making him look like a god of fire. What's going on? Why can't I sense the aura of the heavenly law violet chi? He mumbled to himself with a frown. He immediately swooped down and was prepared to check on Wanshan Great Thousand personally. Not long after he descended, another 3 people with horrifying auras descended. Zhou Xuanji is here. Humph. He dares to possess 2 heavenly law violet chi. That brat must be tired of living. Move faster, or someone else will get to him before us. The 3 silhouettes flew into the sea of clouds and disappeared. After a period of time, many powerful cultivators came to Wanshan Great Thousand. The heavenly law violet chi was too attractive. Who did not want to become a saint? Especially for those who stood at the pinnacle below the heavenly saints. The heavenly law violet chi was their biggest goal. An operation to capture Zhou Xuanji began in all heavens. In front of the temple. The old immortal got up slowly and said, "This is not a good place to stay." After that, he waved his sleeves and teleported Xiao Hu, the black cauldron, and the temple away. Xiao Hu opened his eyes again and found himself in the dark void. The old immortal and his temple were just beside him. The black cauldron, which was scorched red, was spinning in the void like a pendulum. The old immortal continued to meditate before the black cauldron and waited quietly. Xiao Hu wanted to say something but stopped himself. He wanted to help, but he realized that he did not even know how to say it. Don't be impatient. Calm your heart. This is his tribulation, not yours. The old immortal said with a calm tone. Xiao Hu could only try his best to calm himself down. In the Lotus World. On a cliff, Daoya old man sat facing the south. His hands were crossed over his legs. Jiang Shui and Zhou Shaoxian stood behind him and waited curiously. "Mother, do you think Grand Teacher can do it?" Zhou Shaoxian mumbled with a doubtful look. Daoya old man said that he wanted to change Zhou Xuanji's fate. He had been sitting here for a year, but he still could not change it. Jiang Shui said softly, this is a token of his goodwill. Both mother and daughter addressed Daoya old man as Grandmaster, which was an order from him. At this moment, Daoya old man suddenly opened his eyes and sighed, I overestimated myself. The current Zhou Xuanji was not someone he could change. Zhou Shaoxian comforted him, it's okay. Haven't you always overestimated yourself? Daoya old man's mouth twitched as he felt his liver ache. Jiang Shui glared at Zhou Shaoxian and smiled at Daoya old man, Grandmaster, you should start cultivating now. You don't have to be afraid of the heavenly tribulation. After all, we are no longer in the northern wilderness region. Cultivate? Daoya old man fell into a trance. Zhou Shaoxian curled her lips and sighed, I wonder how father is doing and how the outside world is doing. Every time she thought of how her father was still suffering, she felt terrible. Jiang Shui became worried when she heard this. She didn't notice that Zhou Shaoxuan's eyes were glowing with a purple light. Zhou Shaoxian suddenly heard a voice. She frowned slightly but remained calm. In the blink of an eye. Another 5 years passed. In the dark void. The old immortal opened his eyes, which were filled with vigor. He smiled and said, it's finally done. Qiu, who heard him and opened his eyes as well. The charred black cauldron shook violently, and a horrifying aura emanated from it. Boom! The black cauldron exploded suddenly, and a silhouette leaped out. His body was burning with flames, and his eyes were glowing with a purple light. Battle Path Flame's soul. It was Zhou Xuanji. The 4 demon god bodies had already fused with his body, which boosted his aura to the extreme. At this moment, he was like a peerless devil that charged out from the abyss. He quickly retracted the flames on the surface of his body and put on a white shirt. His black hair danced wildly, and one could vaguely see streaks of fire. Qiu, who opened his eyes wide and cried out in shock, Master, how powerful are you now? He felt that Zhou Xuanji had completely transformed. Just his aura alone was enough to make him shudder. Zhou Xuanji looked calm. His figure and face did not look any different from before, but his eyes were emanating a dangerous aura. I'm not sure, but I feel that my physical strength is enough to destroy everything. Zhou Xuanji replied with a smile. The old immortal frowned slightly and said, the difference between becoming a saint and a demon is just a thought. Zhou Xuanji bowed to him and said, Senior, can I go out now? The old immortal narrowed his eyes and nodded lightly. Zhou Xuanji immediately disappeared. Qiu, who was stunned and asked, what is he trying to do? The old immortal replied, what will happen if you suffer endless pain in the cauldron? Qiu, who opened his eyes wide and shuddered in fear. He hurriedly bowed and left as well. The old immortal shook his head and sighed, what a great destiny. On a mountain peak in Wanshan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji appeared out of nowhere and stood by the cliff, facing the wind. He was expressionless, and numerous legendary swords appeared around him. Qiu, who appeared beside him and asked with gritted teeth, Master, what are you trying to do? Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, just wait and see. The 4 demon god bodies flew out from his body and stood around him. He exploded with his horrifying aura, shaking the heavens and earth. I, Zhou Xuanji, am here. Whoever wants the heavenly law violet qi, come forth. Zhou Xuanji cried out. His voice resounded across the entire Wanshan Great Thousand. With the thunderclap sword in his right hand and the history asunder sword in his left, he maintained his explosive aura. Master, are you crazy? Qiu, who said anxiously. Your enemies are not just the living beings of Wanshan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji glanced at him and said, so what? Boom, the mountain under his feet trembled continuously as though it would crumble at any moment. Zhou Xuanji said coldly, since destiny wants to banish me, no matter who the enemy is, be it the heavenly saints or living beings, come and die. When he was tempering his body in the cauldron, he had already thought it through. He did not need to care about the so-called justice. If living beings wanted to destroy him, then he would destroy them. If the heavens wanted to destroy him, then he would destroy the heavens. So what if it was destiny? He would face it head-on. All worlds, if you dare to harbor any malicious thoughts, die by my sword. His voice was filled with bone-chilling murderous intent, which sent chills down Xiao Hu's spine. Not only did Zhou Xuanji's body change, but even his mentality changed drastically. At this time, two peerlessly powerful auras flew over from the front. Without even looking, Zhou Xuanji slashed with the thunderclap sword. Billions of heavenly lightning weaved into a lightning net that connected the heavens and earth. It swept out and destroyed everything in its path. Before the two powerful cultivators could react, they were killed by the heavenly lightning. Both their bodies and souls were destroyed. They would never be able to reincarnate. A massive amount of magic energy entered Zhou Xuanji's body, causing his white robe to flutter violently. His purple eyes were extremely cold, like the eyes of the abyss behind the light. They contained boundless murderous intent. Chapter 593. Looking at Zhou Xuanji's back, Xiao Hu knew that he could not dissuade him. Forget it. Let's go crazy with him. Xiao Hu gritted his teeth and sat down on the ground to cultivate. He wanted to see what Zhou Xuanji could do to this world. Zhou Xuanji began suppressing the magic energy in his body. He did not use the 9-soul fusion technique, but his body had already transformed, which was enough to suppress the violent magic energy that surged into his body. Since he was going to fight against destiny, he must try his best to become more powerful. Enemies were just perfect for him. Demon God Tianwu, Demon Ancestor, Demon God Nanming, and Demon God Jihuang stood around him like 4 iron towers. Each of them faced one direction and looked domineering. A while later, as the dust settled, countless silhouettes appeared. They were all demons and monsters with ferocious faces. They were scattered in every corner of the world and surrounded Zhou Xuanji and the others. Zhou Xuanji, hand over 1 heavenly law of violet qi, and we will let you go. A cold voice came. The demon emperor, who was wearing an emperor's robe, descended from the sky. 36 demon lords followed behind him, including Snake Lord Qingshi. All of them were above connecting heaven level 2. Together with the countless demon soldiers and demon generals, it was enough to scare anyone out of their wits. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. His purple pupils locked onto the demon emperor and said softly, "Do you want to die?" Hearing him, the demon emperor's face darkened immediately. He did not attack Zhou Xuanji directly because he had worked with him before. But he did not expect Zhou Xuanji to ignore their friendship. "Don't waste your breath on him. Snatch it." Humph. Holding 2 heavenly law of violet qi alone. Aren't you afraid of bursting to death? This guy is too greedy. He almost brought destruction to the Wanshan Great Thousand. Kill him. Attack together. This guy is very powerful. The 36 demon lords spoke together. All of them held on to their enchanted artifacts and prepared for battle. The demon emperor raised his right hand and pointed his index finger at Zhou Xuanji. "If so, Zhou Xuanji," he said coldly, "don't blame us for not showing mercy." Boom! A horrifying bolt of purple lightning tore apart the thunderclouds and struck toward Zhou Xuanji. The lightning was imbued with destructive power. Zhou Xuanji quickly raised the thunderclap sword, and the 9 extreme legendary sword gave off a berserk suction force, directly absorbing the purple lightning. The demon Thearka's eyes widened, the 36 demon lords were also shocked, and the demon soldiers and demon generals in the distance were in an uproar. Impossible. That's the god-punishing thunder technique created by His Majesty the Demon God. Where did that sword come from? What a great sword emperor. No wonder he is so arrogant. Why do I have an ominous feeling? The demon army was a little flustered. Zhou Xuanji laughed condescendingly and said, "A divine ability that descends from the sky, I have it too." He shook his right arm and used heavenly sword descent. Countless bolts of heavenly lightning erupted from the thunderclap sword and rose into the sky, condensing into many heavenly swords that fell down crazily. He had fused the primordial chaos sword shadow with the heavenly sword descent. Coupled with the terrifying power of the thunderclap sword, it was definitely a nightmarish killing power. The expressions of the Beast Arch and the 36 Beast Lords changed drastically as they gathered their magic power to create a light barrier to block the Heaven Sword. Boom! 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 The Beast Lords were destroyed in both body and soul by the Heaven Sword. It was a pitiful sight, and the demon soldiers and generals could not resist at all. The Beast Thearcha's magic barrier was also penetrated, but he reacted quickly and dodged quickly. After dodging one sword, there was still another. No! I must escape. The Beast Arch quickly made a decision to abandon the demon army and escape. Swish! An air-piercing sound came from behind him. Before the Beast Arch could turn around, his chest was pierced by the thunderclap sword, and heavenly lightning surrounded his body. Void instant kill. How is this possible? The Beast Thearcha's expression changed drastically. He could not believe his fate. What kind of divine ability was this? Wasn't it too fast? Following this, his magic energy was drained by the thunderclap sword, and his body turned into dust. His soul was locked in place by the thunderclap sword, and he could not break free at all. He looked back at Zhou Xuanji and cursed, "Zhou Xuanji. Are you really going to kill me?" Zhou Xuanji's gaze was cold, and a mocking look appeared in his eyes. "You want to kill me, but I'm not allowed to kill you?" He raised his left hand and pointed his middle finger at the Beast Arch. The Beast Arch did not understand this gesture, and his soul dissipated. The 36 Beast Lords died as well. The demon soldiers and generals either died or escaped. Zhou Xuanji did not kill them all because there was no need to. The heavenly sword descent blasted the heavens and earth into chaos again. Dust billowed, and the light dimmed. It was like the beginning of the world, before the sun rose. Zhou Xuanji sat down and prepared to break through. Hundreds of legendary swords levitated above his head and circled around recklessly as though they were alive. Qiu Hu's face was filled with shock. Too powerful. Exterminating an entire race with one slash. Even someone as powerful as the Beast Arch could be destroyed with a flip of his hand. Not only that, but the 4 demon god clones had yet to act. Just how powerful is he? Qiu Hu thought to himself in a daze. He suddenly felt that Zhou Xuanji was not really crazy. When one was powerful to a certain extent, one could look down on everything. Far away, many cultivators were watching. When they saw what happened to the demons, they all retreated in fear. News of the Beast Arch and the 36 Beast Lords' deaths spread like wildfire across the Wanshan Great Thousand. Zhou Xuanji began to break through with the massive magic energy gathered by the demons. Connecting Heaven Level 4. His cultivation did not stop growing and continued to grow wildly. His body had already transformed and could withstand the unbridled growth of magic energy. Boom! A fiery fist that was tens of thousands of zhang in size struck from the front, as if the sun was crashing into them. Almost in an instant, massive fiery fists came from 7 other directions, including the top of his head. The 8 massive fiery fists pressed forward, which frightened Qiu Hu so much that he got up immediately. The thunderclap sword trembled violently and exploded with countless bolts of heavenly lightning, which turned into a massive lightning net that engulfed the 8 fiery fists. The lightning net stirred the clouds in the sky, and the cities far away were all shocked. What's this? Lightning that covers the sky. Is the Sword Emperor fighting? Sword Emperor. God damn it, it's the Lightning Emperor. It's all heavenly lightning. It's 10,000 times more terrifying than the heavenly lightning I faced during my tribulation. The Sword Emperor is really enraged. Everyone was shocked. Just looking at the writhing lightning net in the sky made their scalps numb. A fiery silhouette pierced through the lightning net and charged toward Zhou Xuanji with unstoppable force. Humph. No wonder you are so arrogant. You have a saint's body and a heavenly saint's enchanted artifact. A voice filled with murderous intent resounded across the heavens and earth, revealing Zhou Xuanji's power to the world. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and looked over. In the dark sky, dust billowed like 10,000 dragons. A massive fireball appeared on the horizon like the approaching sun. It was majestic and majestic. He got up immediately. Even though the magic energy in his body was boiling and was not suitable for battle, he was not afraid. In the billowing flames, a godlike figure could be vaguely seen. My name is Divine Lord Blazing Sunday. It will be your greatest honor to die in my hands. The other party spoke again, and the massive fireball exploded. Countless fiery lines spread rapidly to both sides, trying to surround the mountain where Zhou Xuanji was. I have countless legendary swords. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 594. Blazing Sun Immortal? Zhou Xuanji laughed disdainfully. He had heard such words countless times. The people who talked to him like that were all dead. Xiao Hu clicked his tongue in wonder. Blazing Sun Divine Lord, you are courting death. Do you understand? As the first tiger since the birth of the Heavenly Tao, he naturally knew the top powerhouses under the Heavenly Tao. Blazing Sun Monarch was one of the first living beings in the world. Inside the vast sea of fire, Celestial Lord Blazing Sun did not respond. The billowing sea of flames engulfed the heavens and the earth, surrounding Zhou Xuanji and the others, making them feel as if they were in a sea of flames. Zhou Xuanji's eyes focused, and countless illusory swords appeared out of nowhere. The tips of the swords pointed outwards and surrounded the mountain he was on. Great Chaos Sword Shadow. 10 billion sword projections appeared out of thin air, each less than half a meter away from the other. Before Sir God Blazing Sun could make a move, the primordial sword shadow moved first. Billions of sword shadows moved at the same time, so loud that even the deaf could hear, causing the surrounding space to shatter. The sea of flames was devoured by the void, and darkness spread from all directions. Zhou Xuanji raised the thunderclap sword and used ranged sword propelling. Whoosh! Celestial Lord Blazing Sun, who was hiding in the sea of fire, dodged subconsciously, but his body was still pierced by the thunderclap sword. This speed, when the flames dissipated, Blazing Sun Divine Lord looked horrified. He didn't panic and immediately used his divine ability. His body turned into flames and quickly exploded. He condensed his body again and came behind Zhou Xuanji. Dozens of red wings appeared on his back and pierced towards Zhou Xuanji like sharp blades. The 4 demon gods beside Zhou Xuanji simultaneously punched out. The fist wind gathered together and shattered the red wings. Boom! Zhou Xuanji broke through again and reached connecting heaven level 5. The demon race had so much magic power fused with his body. Even if a lot of it was consumed during the fusion process, it was still enough for him to continue breaking through. Zhou Xuanji turned around and looked at Divine Lord Blazing Sunday. His purple eyes were filled with murderous intent. Blazing Sun Immortal, right? Although I don't know your background, it's no longer important. After saying that, he used Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. Hundreds of divine swords shone with white light and spun at high speed. He walked toward Blazing Sun Immortal step by step, holding his sword with both hands. With a single sentence, he had changed from a defender to an aggressor. Divine Lord Blazing Sun was unhappy with his tone. With a furious roar, he transformed into a phoenix and charged toward Zhou Xuanji with an unstoppable force. Weak. Zhou Xuanji disdainfully laughed and directly unleashed Sword Dao rules. With a flash of the sword light, the phoenix was torn apart. It was as if the sun had exploded, and the impact was visible to the naked eye, causing waves to appear in the void. Celestial Lord Blazing Sun was sent flying while vomiting blood. Zhou Xuanji came up to him in one step, and the two of them were less than a meter apart. Their eyes met. Immortal Blazing Sun saw a pair of eyes full of anger. This fellow isn't conceited. He's angry. Emperor Blazing Sun was shocked and felt incredible. He finally understood Zhou Xuanji's intentions. This kid wanted to take revenge on the common people. Before he could even speak, the sword Dao rules erupted once again, destroying his body and soul. A mighty figure of a generation had fallen here. In the vast thousand worlds, Blazing Sun Immortal had the same status as the Sun God. He was formed from a sun, and his cultivation was exceedingly high. From ancient times until now, he had rarely been defeated. Facing Zhou Xuanji this time, he was not a threat at all. Zhou Xuanji did not care about what Divine Lord Blazing Sun was thinking before he died. He turned and flew in a certain direction. Xiao Hu and the demon god clones hurriedly followed. This area had turned into a void and was isolated by Wanshan Great Thousand's power of heaven and earth. He did not intend to hide but continue to accept challenges openly. Xiao Hu flew to his side and sighed in amazement, "You're too powerful. I feel that you are the heavenly law's great tribulation, purposely purging the common people." Zhou Xuanji glanced at him with a faint smile. Xiao Hu thought that he did not understand and explained, "Each time a great tribulation comes, countless living beings die tragically. It seems to be because of the sins of some beings, but it's not. It's an inevitable rule of the heavenly law. Fate blinds people, giving birth to thoughts of revenge or abnormal ambitions." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at him and said, "Who do you think I want to take revenge on? I didn't attack first." Xiao Hu heard him and felt that it made sense. But no matter how he looked at it, the current situation was a scene of a great tribulation. And Zhou Xuanji was the main character of the great tribulation. For the rest of their journey, they were attacked continuously. Zhou Xuanji crushed everything with his absolute power. Although his cultivation was growing, he did not break through. He was stuck at connecting heaven level 5. He was still waiting for Heavenly Lord Xuantia's arrival. But it was a pity that Heavenly Lord Xiantai had already left Wanshan Great Thousand. This day, they landed beside a surging river. The two sat down cross-legged while the 4 demon gods stood behind them. Xiao Hu could not stop laughing. He was still talking about a pitiful person who died under Zhou Xuanji's sword. "So funny?" Zhou Xuanji asked casually. He could not understand what this guy was laughing about. Xiao Hu burst out laughing, "Yeah. Didn't you see how he died? Ha 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 ha." He laughed louder and louder, as though his laughing acupoint was sealed. Zhou Xuanji suddenly looked in another direction. He saw 3 people walking toward him side by side. They were Ren Niming, Xian Daoya, and Si Mengyan. Xian Daoya was sweating nervously. Facing Zhou Xuanji's peripheral vision, he quickly dodged. Xiao Hu also noticed the 3 of them coming. "It's you." Xiao Hu's expression changed drastically. He got up immediately and locked his gaze on Ren Niming, as though he wanted to devour him. Ren Niming had a smile on his face, giving off a very sinister and evil feeling. "Xiao Hu, long time no see. This time, I'm going to give you a serendipity," Ren Niming said with a smile. Ren Niming smiled. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge fist stopped in front of him, less than 3 centimeters away from the bridge of his nose. The gust from the fist blew his hair backward. His expression did not change but continued to look at Xiao Hu with a smile. "I don't care what you are planning. Get lost." Xiao Hu said word by word. His voice was like thunder, and his fury soared to the sky. "Who is he?" Zhou Xuanji's voice came. Xiao Hu took a deep breath and stared at Ren Niming. "He's Ren Niming," he said with gritted teeth. "He's extremely cunning. He's always scheming to steal fate." Ren Niming avoided his fist and brushed past him as he walked towards Zhou Xuanji. "Sword Emperor, I admire you the most. Do you want to fight Heavenly Lord Xiantai together?" "Don't worry, I'm not interested in the Heavenly Law Violet Qi." Ren Niming asked Zhou Xuanji with a smile. He knew his place and stopped 15 meters away from Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji sized him up and realized that this guy was so profound that he could not see through his cultivation. "What do you want?" Zhou Xuanji asked indifferently. He wanted to deal with Heavenly Lord Xiantai and did not need anyone's help. Ren Niming smiled and said, I just want to see if you can defeat destiny and change the heavenly law's rules. He looked at Zhou Xuanji with a trace of fanaticism in his eyes, as though he was looking at a rare treasure. He continued to speak, I know why you were banished by destiny. So, do you want to work together? Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 595. I have a way to make you tell me directly. Why should I work with you? Zhou Xuanji looked askance at Ren Niming and said with a smile. His tone was relaxed and did not contain any murderous intent. Ren Niming was not nervous. He shook his head and said with a smile, You have your principles. I have no ill intentions toward you, so you will not attack me. Or else, what's the difference between you and those pitiful worms who died in the Great Tribulation? Principles could be laughable sometimes. It could even be said to be pathetic. But principles could keep one's heart firm and one's Tao more stable. Zhou Xuanji got up slowly and said, People who think they're smart die easily. He did not like it when people played tricks with him. It was as though he was a chess piece that could be manipulated. It was fine if it was a heavenly saint. At least he was powerful enough. Could this Ren Niming be a heavenly saint too? Zhou Xuanji walked toward him. His aura exploded and froze the river. Xian Daoya trembled in fear. Si Mengyan sized up Zhou Xuanji with interest. No wonder the old ancestors said that he's the most talented. Si Mengyan sighed in his heart. Zhou Xuanji gave him an extremely dangerous feeling. This meant that Zhou Xuanji had already surpassed him. How long had it been? This was terrifying. Any powerful cultivator in the same era as Zhou Xuanji would be a tragedy. So many geniuses had died in Zhou Xuanji's hands. Who would mention them now? If you kill me now, how will you face destiny? You don't even know where destiny is and who is the executor of destiny. I can erase this memory before you attack, Ren Niming said with a smile. Ren Niming said with a smile. He was not angered by Zhou Xuanji, nor was he afraid. Zhou Xuanji smiled and stopped walking. Tell me, what do you want? I'm not very patient, he said. He wanted to see if he could defeat destiny. Could it be any more fake? Did he think that he was the heavenly law that came down to watch a show? Ren Niming stopped smiling and said seriously, My name has already told you the answer. If you are willing to work with me, then follow me to the netherworld now. Zhou Xuanji understood the look in his eyes. It seemed that this guy had been played by destiny before. After some thought, he nodded in agreement. He looked at Xian Daoya and said, This guy is already your subordinate? Ren Niming smiled and said, Don't worry. He can answer whatever you want to ask. Of course, you'd better not kill him. He's still very useful. Xian Daoya sensed Zhou Xuanji's gaze and gave an awkward but polite smile. Qiu Hu coldly snorted and said, Lord, be careful. This fellow loves to scheme against others. Ren Niming glanced at him and asked with a smile, Qiu Hu, what did I plot against you? Back then, I helped you obtain so many treasures and even helped you join the great Emperor Dao court, but what have you ever repaid me for? I just left suddenly and didn't let you find me. Is that a scheme? Have you ever truly looked for me? Do you know if I ran away from you or if I ran into trouble? Have you ever sincerely helped me? Qiu Hu was rendered speechless by his question. Thinking about it, Qiu Hu's ears turned red. Let's go to the netherworld. On the way there, tell me why you want to go there. Zhou Xuanji said, interrupting their conversation. This helped Qiu Hu walk out of his embarrassment. Ren Niming nodded and waved his right hand. A space crack appeared in front of him, and he stepped into it first. Zhou Xuanji stored all the demon god bodies into the Tianxia map and followed closely behind with Qiu Hu. Xian Daoya and Si Mengyan followed at the back. They began passing through the yin-yang boundary. Your birth mother must have looked for you. Your banishment must have something to do with her. Let's go and find her first. The one who started the trouble should be the one who started it, Ren Niming said casually as he looked down. Why do you know so much about me? Zhou Xuanji asked. Ren Niming looked at him and said with a smile, Since you were born, I have been observing you. You have been hunted since you were young. If not for me, you would not have had it so easy. Think about it, how many times have you been ambushed by Great Zhou's pursuers in Great Zhou? Zhou Xuanji frowned and immediately understood. You are the one who altered the Northern Wilderness people's bloodline? Why did you do that? Ever since the Northern Wilderness people altered the bloodline, there were fewer and fewer great emperors in the world. Even the number of ascenders decreased. To deal with the demonic emperor, of course. If not for what I did, you would have been controlled by the demonic emperor, including your family. If that was the case, the demonic emperor did not even need to do it himself. With just a thought, he could make you all walk up to him and be at his mercy. Ren Niming shrugged his shoulders and replied, I don't like this guy. He was a pitiful worm, weak and petty. If not for him giving up his heart and submitting to fate, how could he have become who he is today? His tone was filled with disdain when he mentioned the demonic emperor. I purposely left behind a rumor to let people know that the person who altered the Northern Wilderness bloodline was surnamed Ren. This was to warn the demonic emperor. This was also the reason why the demonic emperor did not dare to enter the Northern Wilderness again. At this point, Ren Niming burst out in laughter, feeling very carefree. Zhou Xuanji was even more curious about him. This person could play the demonic emperor in the palm of his hand. Could he be a saint? Or could he be like the old immortal and the old beggar, who came from a higher realm? Ren Niming looked at Xian Daoya and said with a smile, This guy is trying to imitate me, which is why there is Daoya old man. But it's a pity that he is not capable enough to control the situation. The biggest difference between me and him is that I will not interfere with you. I give you space to grow, while he wants to use you too early. Zhou Xuanji laughed coldly, Too early? You mean you want to use me too? Ren Niming shook his head again and looked at Zhou Xuanji with a passionate gaze. You came from outside the heavenly law. Back then, I saw that light clearly. It was I who guided you to be born in the Northern Wilderness region, hoping that you could live a better life and avoid the suffering of the world. But it's a pity that people's hearts are unpredictable. The women in the mortal realm are really cruel. After that, you were thrown into the river, and it was me who moved you to your wife. Your wife's background is not simple. I seized a great serendipity for you in advance, and one day, this serendipity will save your life. Zhou Xuanji frowned and became wary of Ren Niming. This guy had done so many things for him. From the looks of it, wasn't he Ren Niming's chess piece? And that light should be the supreme legendary sword system. Qiao Hu, Si Mengyan, and Xian Daoya were silent. They were not surprised because Ren Niming could do it. Qiao Hu and Xian Daoya were supported by him. Back then, the demonic emperor wanted to do it too, but Ren Niming looked down on him. Don't think too much. I don't want you to repay me. I know that as long as you don't die, you will go to a wider world sooner or later. The heavenly law is not your goal. Back then, I helped you because I wanted you to help me defeat destiny. But I did not expect destiny to find you first. This is really interesting, Ren Niming laughed sinisterly. His eyes were filled with extreme murderous intent. Qiao Hu could not help but ask, what did destiny do to you, that you're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel? Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.